Chapter 1720 End of the Rope. Chapter 1720 End of the Rope. The dragon phoenix true body shuddered. When the 5 pieces of flesh were torn off by the 5 fiend ghosts, he could clearly sense that his blood chi and life force had decreased slightly. Suddenly, the dragon phoenix true body's expression changed as though he sensed something. Something was not right. His lifespan was decreasing. The bite of the 5 fiend ghosts would not only devour the blood chi and life force of the dragon phoenix true body, but also his lifespan. Of course, that devouring speed was far less terrifying than the time saber. A single bite from a fiend skeleton could only devour about 1,000 years of the dragon phoenix true body's lifespan. The speed of lifespan deterioration seemed slow. However, if the 5 fiend skeletons bit at the same time, it would mean that the dragon phoenix true body would lose 5,000 years of lifespan instantly. What was even more frightening was that the 5 fiend skeletons clung onto the dragon phoenix the entire time and could not be shaken off. Although the dragon phoenix true body had a lifespan of hundreds of thousands of years, he could not defend against such expenditure. Hee. The Hell Witch Emperor sneered with a dark green gaze. Desolate Marshal, do you think that you're the only one who knows divine powers and secret skills that can reduce one's lifespan? Shing. Before the Hell Witch Emperor could finish his sentence, the 5 fiend skeletons opened their mouths once more and tore off a large piece of flesh from the dragon phoenix. In less than 2 breaths, the lifespan of the dragon phoenix true body was reduced by 10,000 years. Ever since he comprehended Baron, the dragon phoenix true body had killed many strong foes with this powerful trump card. His time saber had even killed emperors before. However, he had never felt such a strong sense of time passing from himself. In less than 2 breaths, his lifespan of 10,000 years was gone. It was an extremely uncomfortable feeling. It made one feel powerless and crazy. The dragon phoenix true body did not dare to delay and channeled his blood chi with all his might. Boom. A loud bang sounded from his body. One after another, incomparably strong demon kings descended. Their claws were sharp and lifelike as they roared into the skies with a tremendous might. His bloodline phenomenon burst forth and the 5 fiend skeletons were repelled instantly. Shatter. The Blood Emperor channeled the blood sea and created raging tides that struck the 11 demon kings around the dragon phoenix true body continuously. Boom, boom, boom. A loud bang sounded as the 11 demon kings fought against the blood sea. The Blood Emperor's countless blood vines stabbed into the ground and circulated the blood refinement fiend sutra, refining the spilled bloodlines wildly and gathering them in the blood sea. Not only did the power of the blood sea not weaken, it became stronger instead. Even the 11 demon kings could not defend against it and their lights dimmed as cracks appeared on their bodies. Before long, the 11 demon kings would be devoured by the blood sea. Condense. The dragon phoenix true body channeled his essence spirit and hollered. Under his will, the 11 demon kings dissipated and turned into thick demonic chi that surged above his head. In the blink of an eye, a butterfly the size of 10 feet appeared from the surging demonic chi. The butterfly spread its blood-colored wings with 2 bright moons imprinted on them, looking at the emperors present like a pair of eyes. Compared to the previous 11 demon kings, the blood-colored butterfly was way too inferior in terms of size. However, the moment the blood butterfly appeared, the initially turbulent blood sea calmed down. The endless blood sea seemed to be frozen by an invisible force. It froze and did not move at all. In fact, there were no ripples on the surface of the sea. The Blood Emperor was not surprised when he saw that. He had long heard that a blood-colored butterfly would eventually appear in Desolate Marshal's bloodline phenomenon and was extremely powerful. The Blood Emperor's glabella shone and a scarlet blood gourd appeared. That was his destiny dermic treasure. The Blood Emperor bit his tongue gently and spat out a stream of essence blood onto the blood gourd. The blood gourd shuddered and shone with a scarlet light. Go! The Blood Emperor hollered and threw the blood gourd into midair, arriving above the head of the dragon phoenix true body. The mouth of the gourd was facing down towards the blood-colored butterfly. Absorb. He controlled the blood gourd and an extremely terrifying suction force burst forth from its mouth. The power of divine powers descended and pulled the blood-colored butterfly into the blood gourd. Hee. When he saw that, the Blood Emperor grinned. I've long prepared methods to deal with your blood butterfly. I don't care if you're a bloodline phenomenon, divine beast or fiend demon. Once you enter my blood gourd, you'll turn into blood in less than 3 breaths. The moment he said that, the Blood Emperor seemed to have sensed something, and his expression changed when he looked at the blood gourd in his palm. He threw out the blood gourd in his hands and his essence spirit transformed into a blood beam. He had actually abandoned his body and fled far away. The moment he did that, the blood gourd exploded in midair with an extremely terrifying power. The Blood Emperor's blood vine body was swept into a blood mist by the power and was completely destroyed. If the Blood Emperor's essence spirit had not escaped in time, he would have died within. The Hell Witch Emperor's pupils constricted slightly and he was secretly alarmed. Even he had not expected that blood butterfly to be so terrifying that even the Blood Emperor's destiny dermic treasure could not trap it. Of course, after the blood gourd exploded, the blood butterfly dissipated as well. A look of surprise flashed through the eyes of the Dragon Phoenix true body. He was still a little off. These top emperors were experienced in combat and had an unparalleled sensitivity towards life and death. Coupled with their many trump cards, they were extremely difficult to kill. Desolate Marshal, you destroyed my destiny dermic treasure. I'm going to drink your blood and eat your flesh. The Blood Emperor channeled blood rebirth and reconstructed his body. With a pale expression he roared. Although he managed to survive, the destruction of his destiny dermic treasure still caused him considerable injuries. The Blood Emperor waved his blood vines and took root on the ground, channeling the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra once more to refine his bloodline and heal his injuries. At the same time, the Blood Emperor channeled the Endless Blood Sea and launched his final attack on the Dragon Phoenix true body. Your bloodline phenomenon is already gone. Let's see how you defend against it. The Blood Emperor had a cold expression and his eyes shone with a murderous glint. Desolate Marshal, your taboo body must die today. On the other side, the Shadowless Emperor said slowly with a cold expression. He could also tell that the Dragon Phoenix true body was at the end of his rope and could not hold on any longer. Without holding back, the Shadowless Emperor conjured a supreme divine power. Phantom Slash. The Shadowless Emperor hollered softly. Suddenly, dozens of Shadowless Emperors appeared around the Dragon Phoenix true body. They wielded two sabers and it was difficult to tell if they were real or fake. Every single one of them emitted an extremely terrifying aura. Back at the 10,000 race meet, the malevolent Wind Rakshasa Emperor released this supreme divine power against the Eternal Human Emperor. However, it was easily resolved by the Eternal Human Emperor and he was killed instead. The Shadowless Emperor was not worried at all. After all, the taboo Dragon Phoenix had yet to grow to its peak and was far inferior to the Eternal Human Emperor. Notwithstanding whether the Dragon Phoenix could tell where his true body was. Even if he could tell, the taboo Dragon Phoenix could not defend against his slash. The supreme divine power, Phantom Slash, contained two killing moves. Phantoms could bewitch opponents. The final slash was even more lethal. Chapter 1721, Hanging by a Thread. Chapter 1721, Hanging by a Thread. The Shadowless Emperor was not wrong. The Dragon Phoenix true body could no longer hold on. This battle was equivalent to the Dragon Phoenix true body facing three top emperors alone. Even Night Spirit could only fight against two top emperors. Right now, the Blood Emperor, Shadowless Emperor and Hell Witch Emperor released their supreme divine powers and trump cards. The reason why the Dragon Phoenix true body could last till now was because of his taboo bloodline and his powerful physique that cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness all year round. After all, the Dragon Phoenix true body had only comprehended a single supreme divine power. He was still weaker in terms of strength. At that moment, it was extremely difficult for the Dragon Phoenix true body to defend against the corrosive power of the Endless Blood Sea. He could not defend against the Phantom Slash released by the Shadowless Emperor at all. First, Night Spirit was fighting against the Golden Crowfire Emperor and Thousand Eye Emperor, but he was paying attention to the commotion. Sensing the danger the Dragon Phoenix true body was in, he was anxious and wanted to break free from the entanglement of the Golden Crowfire Emperor and Thousand Eye Emperor to support the Dragon Phoenix true body. However, Night Spirit merely moved slightly and the Golden Crowfire Emperor and Thousand Eye Emperor sensed it. Trying to leave? The Thousand Eye Emperor sneered, "It's not that easy." Petrification. Without hesitation, the Thousand Eye Emperor released his supreme divine power, Petrification Eye. The heavenly eye on his glabella opened and released a gray beam of light that enveloped Night Spirit. Kill? Night Spirit turned his head and a dark beam of light gathered in his eyes, prepared to charge towards the Petrification Eye. It was the Nether Glow Eye. The nether glow stone that Su Zimo obtained contained the inheritance of that visual technique. However, for Night Spirit who possessed the bloodline of the Divine Ho, he did not need the nether glow stone at all. The visual technique was in his memories. Spirit Slaying Curse. Suddenly, the voice of the Hell Witch Emperor sounded. He had used an Essence Spirit secret skill. This time round, the Hell Witch Emperor did not attack the Dragon Phoenix true body. The Essence Spirit secret skill was targeted at Night Spirit. When the Hell Witch Emperor's everlasting curse failed to kill the Dragon Phoenix true body, he vaguely guessed that there might be a treasure in the consciousness of the Dragon Phoenix true body. Therefore, the Hell Witch Emperor no longer tried to release an Essence Spirit secret skill on the Dragon Phoenix true body. This time round, the Hell Witch Emperor attacked Night Spirit without any warning. Furthermore, it was the most treacherous Essence Spirit secret skill. Suddenly, a dark green storm appeared in Night Spirit's consciousness and swept towards his Essence Spirit. The power of the Spirit Slaying Curse would descend directly into one's consciousness and it was impossible to defend against. Night Spirit did not dare to be careless and channeled his Essence Spirit secret skill hurriedly to defend. In his consciousness, a purple-gold light pierced the dark green storm. The two Essence Spirit secret skills clashed. The Spirit Slaying Curse dissipated. Night Spirit's expression changed as he grunted and swayed. Although he blocked the Spirit Slaying Curse, his Essence Spirit still suffered some impact. His nether glow eye dissipated before it was completely formed. At the same time, the petrification eye descended. Crack, crack, crack. Instantly, Night Spirit's body was covered by a layer of grayish-white rocks. Not only did his flesh turn into stone, even his bloodline gradually stopped and showed signs of petrification. Night Spirit's body trembled as he channeled his blood chi wildly to defend against the power of petrification and endured immense pain. This was a supreme divine power after all. It was almost impossible for Night Spirit to withstand it completely. Roar. Raising his head, Night Spirit let out a deep roar of pain. His throat was almost petrified and his roar became extremely hoarse. Petrification did not merely mean motionless. If Night Spirit's flesh was petrified, his body would be completely destroyed and all his life force would turn into dull rocks. Even if his Essence Spirit could escape, he would not have a bloodline that could reconstruct his body. Night Spirit growled once more and channeled some unknown secret skill, causing purple gold flames to burst forth from his body. The purple gold flames began to burn the petrification power in his body. Night Spirit's bloodline started circulating once more. The Hell Witch Emperor focused his gaze and murmured, "He's truly going all out. This is a secret skill that burns his lifespan." Boom. Finally, Night Spirit broke free from the restraints of the petrification eye completely. However, he was clearly much weaker. That secret skill consumed a large amount of his lifespan. Night Spirit broke free from the petrification eye and wanted to charge towards the Dragon Phoenix true body without hesitation. He was not completely out of danger yet, but he was still thinking about Su Zimo. Right then, a gigantic blazing sun descended and struck Night Spirit heavily. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor had already attacked the moment Night Spirit was trapped by the petrification eye. It was a supreme divine power, Golden Crow Blaze. After releasing that supreme divine power, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor transformed into a blazing sun that emitted a scorching power that incinerated everything in its path. Bang! Night Spirit had to burn his lifespan to break free from the restraints of the petrification eye and was sent flying by the blazing sun before he could defend. Before he even touched the ground, the scales on his body already fell off consecutively. Night Spirit's eyes dimmed as he spat out huge mouthfuls of blood. Without the protection of his scales, his body was burned and cracked. The moment blood flowed out, it was incinerated by the power of the Golden Crow Blaze. Before Night Spirit could help the Dragon Phoenix true body, he was severely injured and was in danger, his life hanging by a thread. Night Spirit. On the other side, Su Zimo was anxious when he saw that as well. However, even with 3 heads, 6 arms and everlasting vitality, he could only barely ensure his survival against the 9 emperors of the primordial races. He could not break through the obstruction of the emperors. The moment Su Zimo was distracted, the 9 emperors of the primordial races seized the opportunity and released their supreme divine powers one after another, forming torrential attacks that descended. Su Zimo's expression turned grim. He did not even know if he could survive such a ferocious attack, let alone help the Dragon Phoenix true body and Night Spirit. Ah! Su Zimo reared his head and roared into the skies, channeling his blood chi to its limits. A creation green lotus condensed behind him and a resplendent glow spread, illuminating the mountains and rivers. Tiske, Tiske, Tsk. A series of heaven-slaying sword chi burst forth from Su Zimo's body. The 108,000 sword chi were blinding and white. Su Zimo waved his 3 heads and 6 arms and chanted Sanskrit continuously. He waved 6 dharmic treasures and clashed against 9 supreme divine powers. The 9 supreme divine powers descended and collided with the 108,000 heaven-slaying sword chi first. However, silently, the heaven-slaying sword chi was devoured by the power of the 9 supreme divine powers. The difference was too great. Although the heaven-slaying sword art was indeed powerful, Su Zimo had only cultivated it to the realm of a greater divine power. Yet they were facing 9 supreme divine powers. Boom. After devouring the 108,000 heaven-slaying sword chi, the 9 supreme divine powers collided against the bloodline phenomenon, the creation green lotus, with a loud bang. The void trembled and the weather changed. After a momentary stalemate, the creation green lotus shattered inch by inch and dissipated into the world. Chapter 1722, Collapse of the Situation. Chapter 1722, Collapse of the Situation. Although the power of the 9 supreme divine powers was diminished significantly after colliding against the bloodline phenomenon, the creation green lotus, they could still take form and suppress forth. The green lotus true body was also in immense danger. He no longer had any methods that could take on the 9 supreme divine powers head-on. Su Zimo waved his 6 arms and channeled his blood chi to its limits. 6 dharmic treasures shone brightly in his palm. Boom, boom, boom. A deafening bang shook the world. A blood mist burst forth from Su Zimo's body. In his palm, a saber dharmic treasure was snapped by a supreme divine power. The tremendous power exploded his arm into a blood mist. Immediately after, his other arm exploded as well. Poof, poof, poof. Fresh blood gushed out. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo's 2 heads and 4 arms were ruptured by the supreme divine powers that blanketed the skies. Even 4 dharmic treasures were crippled. Right now, Su Zimo only had the human emperor's seal and creation lotus platform left. His 3-head 6 arms was destroyed by the 9 supreme divine powers. Of the 9 supreme divine powers there were 3 left. Taking a deep breath of air, Su Zimo took out a long scroll from his robes and opened it, revealing words filled with blood. The human emperor's dharmic edict. The power of the human emperor's dharmic edict was almost depleted. However, this dharmic edict was written personally by the human emperor using the human emperor's brush that was stained with the blood of emperors and still possessed some powerful might. Su Zimo spread the human emperor's dharmic edict and enveloped himself. The moment he did that, the remaining 3 supreme divine powers descended. Boom. The void seemed to have stopped. Immediately after, a faint sound of cracking could be heard from midair. Cracks appeared on the human emperor's dharmic edict. Thereafter, the human emperor's dharmic edict shattered into pieces that scattered like snowflakes. The final thing left behind by the human emperor for Su Zimo was also shattered by the 9 emperors of the primordial races in this battle. Even with the protection of the human emperor's dharmic edict, Su Zimo's green lotus true body suffered a huge blow. Bang! Like a meteor, Su Zimo smashed heavily onto the ground, creating a huge pit. Su Zimo struggled and stood up from the pit. He felt his tendons and bones about to split and the pain was unbearable. The green lotus true body was severely injured. At that moment he could still circulate everlasting vitality. However, the power released by everlasting vitality was no longer as strong as before and its effect was greatly reduced. The speed of the green lotus true body's healing was also much slower. If Su Zimo was given 2 to 4 hours he might be able to recover to his peak. However, the 9 emperors of the primordial races had already closed in once more. The 9 emperors of the primordial races would not even give him a single breath, let alone 4 hours. The green lotus true body panted heavily. With every breath, there was a strong blood stench in his nose and mouth. He no longer had any trump cards. He could not defend against the attacks of the 9 emperors of the primordial races with his damaged green lotus true body and the human emperor's seal and creation lotus platform alone. Of course, the only secret skill he could release right now was the Kachirati Dao Fire. However, the might of the Kachirati Dao Fire could only be considered as a greater divine power at most. Even if it was released, it would not affect anything. A hint of sadness flashed through Su Zimo's eyes. The Green Lotus true body was in a desperate situation as well. However, he still could not sense anything from the martial Tao prime body. Boom. Right then, another loud bang sounded not far away. It was the supreme divine power released by the Shadowless Emperor, Phantom Slash. For the Dragon Phoenix true body, it was not difficult to distinguish which was the Shadowless Emperor's true body among the dozens of figures. Although the Dragon Phoenix true body was already at the end of his rope, his spirit perception was still present after cultivating the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness all year round. Almost instinctively, the Dragon Phoenix true body locked onto the Shadowless Emperor's true body. However, the Dragon Phoenix true body fell into the endless blood sea and the Dragon Phoenix flames on his body were almost extinguished. His blood chi was weak and he could not defend against that supreme divine power at all. The Phantom Slash condensed a cold beam that slashed towards the glabella of the Dragon Phoenix true body. Suddenly, a small tripod the size of a thumb flew out from the glabella of the Dragon Phoenix true body and expanded rapidly. In the blink of an eye, a 5 feet tall bronze square tripod with 4 legs appeared. It had an ancient aura and defined edges. The bronze square tripod clearly seemed useless. It was filled with cracks and did not have any dermic powers or divine powers surrounding it. Although the bronze square tripod could be considered as the destiny dermic weapon of the Dragon Phoenix true body, in reality, he had not been able to refine it successfully. Therefore, even in battles all these years, the Dragon Phoenix true body rarely used the bronze square tripod. Even if he summoned it, he could not use the bronze square tripod to release any dermic arts or divine powers. At most, he would smash people with the tripod. Be it with dermic powers or divine powers, it was difficult to refine the bronze square tripod. All these years, the Dragon Phoenix true body had searched for countless treasures to try and repair the bronze square tripod. However, all of them ended in failure. No matter what methods the Dragon Phoenix true body used, he could not refine the bronze square tripod, let alone fuse with those universal treasures. There was no way he could smelt and repair it. The origin of the bronze square tripod was a mystery. Even the Qin Dragon Emperor who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years in Tianhuang mainland could not tell the background of that tripod. Now that his life was hanging by a thread, the Dragon Phoenix true body could only summon the bronze square tripod and attempt to defend against the Phantom Slash. Fufu, desolate marshal, you're at your wits' end to be reduced to such a state. The Shadowless Emperor sneered. Notwithstanding the fact that the bronze square tripod was filled with cracks and was a useless item, even a truly powerful dermic treasure could not defend against the power of a supreme divine power completely. How dare you take out such scrap metal? Watch me break it with a single strike. The Shadowless Emperor hollered and the Phantom Slash struck the bronze square tripod heavily. Clang. The sound of metal clashing was extremely ear-piercing. The surrounding Hell Witch Emperor, Blood Emperor and even Shadowless Emperor frowned and gasped. The Shadowless Emperor shuddered and retreated a few steps in midair with a changed expression. When his supreme divine power struck the bronze square tripod that was filled with cracks, it was completely dissipated without any killing power landing on the Dragon Phoenix true body. Of course, the bronze square tripod was sent flying as well and fell into the blood sea in silence. The blood sea surged and even drowned the Dragon Phoenix true body, extinguishing the Dragon Phoenix flames. However, there was no blood around the bronze square tripod. When the blood sea surged around the tripod, it dispersed automatically, forming a vacuum. This is a treasure. Almost at the same time, the eyes of the Hell Witch Emperor, Blood Emperor and Shadowless Emperor lit up. Let's kill the taboo Dragon Phoenix first. The Hell Witch Emperor reminded. The Blood Emperor and Shadowless Emperor understood what was more important and composed themselves before charging towards the Dragon Phoenix true body once more. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo's 2 true bodies and Night Spirit were in a hopeless situation. The situation had collapsed. Chapter 1723 Comprehending Divine Powers. Chapter 1723 Comprehending Divine Powers. Within the endless blood sea. The Dragon Phoenix true body fell into it and could barely defend against the Shadowless Emperor's attack. He could not escape at all. However, the longer he stayed in the blood sea, the deeper the influence on the Dragon Phoenix true body by the filthy power of the blood sea. Initially, his body burned with the Dragon Phoenix flames. But now, the Dragon Phoenix flames were completely extinguished. The Blood Emperor channeled the endless Blood Sea while refining the bloodlines on the battlefield, causing the power of the Blood Sea to increase. Not only did the filthy and evil power of the Blood Sea extinguish the Dragon Phoenix flames, it even began to infect the Dragon Phoenix scales and seep into his bloodline. The blood chi of the Dragon Phoenix true body intensified. In melee combat, he could no longer defend against the Shadowless Emperor's attacks and more wounds appeared on his body. What was even more serious was that the Hell Witch Emperor's 5 fiend ghost stuck to him the entire time and gnawed at his flesh and life force. The Dragon Phoenix true body was already at his limits dealing with the Shadowless Emperor in the endless Blood Sea and could not break free from the 5 fiend ghosts. The 5 fiend ghosts did not only devour life force and flesh, but also lifespan. Unknowingly, the Dragon Phoenix true body had already lost 100,000 years of lifespan in that short period of time. Even though the Dragon Phoenix was a taboo and had a lifespan of hundreds of thousands of years, it could not withstand the speed of deterioration. However, he was helpless to stop it. He had already used up all his trump cards and his defeat was certain. Not far away, Night Spirit burned his lifespan but could not escape from the pursuit of the Golden Crowfire Emperor and Thousand Eye Emperor. Against the attacks of the two top emperors, Night Spirit's injuries worsened and his blood chi began to deteriorate. His movement technique was no longer as agile as before. It was only a matter of time before Night Spirit died as well. The situation of the Green Lotus true body was even more tragic. After being surrounded by the 9 emperors of the primordial races and losing 3 heads 6 arms, the Green Lotus true body was almost shattered and could die at any moment. Was he going to lose? If he lost this battle, he would not be the one to die. The storyteller would die. Emperors of the dragon, Kuan and barbarian races would die. The emperors of the human race would die. At the borders of the North region, all the cultivators who fought against the 8 demon regions and primordial 6 races would not be able to escape the fate of defeat. The humans of Tianhuang mainland would either be extinguished or enslaved. He could not afford to lose. He could not lose this battle either. Even if the martial Dao Prime body came out of seclusion successfully and returned, it would be too late for regrets if he saw the human race of Tianhuang mainland destroyed. At that time his old friends would already be dead. Without Yaoshue, Little Fatty, Lin Xuanji, Demoness Ji and Ming Jin, what was the point of having the martial Dao Prime body be alive all alone? Crack, crack, crack. The 5 fiend ghosts bit the flesh of the Dragon Phoenix true body continuously and devoured it in huge mouthfuls. They had excited expressions and their eyes shone with faint green lights. The Dragon Phoenix true body was already bloodied from the bites and it was a tragic sight. He was already numb to the pain. A thought flashed through the Dragon Phoenix true body's mind as he sensed the deterioration of his lifespan and he suddenly fell into a mysterious state. If he could comprehend another supreme divine power, he could break out of the situation. As long as there was enough time, the Dragon Phoenix true body could cultivate many greater divine powers to the level of supreme divine powers. Over the years, the Dragon Phoenix true body had also attempted to cultivate many greater divine powers. Among them, apart from the 6-tusked divine strength, he cultivated time as like a saber the most. The Dragon Phoenix true body had already cultivated Baron at the Void Reversion realm. The essence of Baron was the power of time. Furthermore, he had obtained the inheritance of half-martial ancestor instant in the stone statue cemetery in the Dao inheritance ground. That was also a power of time. Although the Dragon Phoenix true body had come into contact with the power of time a long time ago, it was way too mysterious and difficult to comprehend. Time passed and was everywhere. The cycle of life and death was time. The passing of spring and arrival of autumn was time. The rise and set of the sun was time. The transformation from a sea to a field was time. Time was like a saber and every single slash was pressing. Time was everywhere but difficult to capture. Although the Dragon Phoenix true body knew about Baron and could condense the time saber, he had not been able to advance the time saber to the level of a supreme divine power for the past 1,000 years. One of the most important reasons was because he had yet to truly experience the power of time. Up till this point of his cultivation he had only cultivated for a few thousand years. For the taboo Dragon Phoenix with a lifespan of hundreds of thousands of years, he was like a child after thousands of years. How could he understand the vicissitudes of life? But now, in this tragic battle, the 5 fiend ghost curse of the Hell Witch Emperor made the Dragon Phoenix true body experience the cruelty of time deeply. Earlier on he lost 100,000 years of lifespan. In this short period of time, He lost another 100,000 years of his lifespan after the 5 fiend ghosts gnawed on his flesh. 200,000 years of lifespan had already passed. This was a feeling and experience that he had never gone through before. A mysterious feeling rose in the Dragon Phoenix true body's heart as he entered a state of enlightenment. In that instant he gained a new understanding and comprehension towards the power of time. All the doubts he had encountered over the past 1,000 years seemed to have been answered. Within the endless blood sea, the eyes of the Dragon Phoenix true body closed. Against the Shadowless Emperor's melee combat, he relied entirely on his spirit perception and instincts. At the same time, a mysterious energy fluctuation gradually spread from the Dragon Phoenix true body. It was extremely obscure and grew stronger. How dare you close your eyes? The Shadowless Emperor felt extremely provoked and humiliated as his attacks turned fiercer. However, the power of the Dragon Phoenix true body seemed to be getting stronger as well, neutralizing all his attacks. What's going on? Suddenly, the Blood Emperor frowned and noticed something unusual. The filthy power of the Blood Sea could not seep into the Dragon Phoenix true body's body and bloodline, as though it was met with an immense resistance. The Hell Witch Emperor sensed something as well and his expression changed. He could sense that although the 5 fiend ghosts were still chewing the flesh of the Dragon Phoenix, his lifespan was no longer decreasing. Right then the Hell Witch Emperor felt an obscure energy fluctuation. That is... Suddenly the Hell Witch Emperor's eyes widened and his expression changed as he exclaimed, "Supreme Divine Power." What? The Blood Emperor asked instinctively. Hurry and interrupt him. The Hell Witch Emperor shrieked and pointed at the Dragon Phoenix true body, shouting, "He's comprehending a supreme divine power. We can't let him continue comprehending." There was something else that the Hell Witch Emperor did not manage to say. Supreme divine powers varied in strength as well. Weak supreme divine powers such as Sleeve Universe and Concealment did not pose much of a threat to them because they did not have much killing power. Powerful supreme divine powers such as the Killing Word Art or Permethau Bridge of the Eternal Human Emperor could kill emperors upon release. As for the Hell Witch Emperor, he felt shudders when he sensed that divine power aura from the Dragon Phoenix. He did not know what supreme divine power the Dragon Phoenix true body was comprehending. However, he knew that this supreme divine power was definitely not weaker than the Killing Word Art or the Permethau Bridge. Chapter 1724, Fleeting Moment. Chapter 1724, Fleeting Moment. He's comprehending divine powers. The Blood Emperor was alarmed. Their battle against the Dragon Phoenix true body had already reached such an extent after the latter merely comprehended a single supreme divine power. If he comprehended another supreme divine power, the combat strength of the Dragon Phoenix true body would definitely increase exponentially. The Blood Emperor did not know what that supreme divine power was. However, he knew that if the Dragon Phoenix true body comprehended another supreme divine power, it would be many times more difficult for the three of them to kill him. Many variables would also be added to this battle. Blood Tribute. Without hesitation, the Blood Emperor released the secret skill of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. At the same time, countless blood vines pulled out from the ground and charged towards the Dragon Phoenix true body like thousands of spirit snakes and anacondas. Suddenly, the Dragon Phoenix true body opened his eyes and looked at the Blood Emperor with a lightning gaze. At that moment, the Blood Emperor felt his body turn cold, as though a calamity was about to descend upon him at any moment. He could even smell the aura of death. How could that be? The Blood Emperor had a menacing expression and refused to believe it. Even if the Dragon Phoenix true body comprehended another supreme divine power and his combat strength increased significantly, it was impossible for him to be killed directly. Right then, the Dragon Phoenix true body extended his Dragon Phoenix claw and pointed at the Blood Emperor through the endless blood sea. Fleeting moment. The moment those words were said, the world seemed to have fallen into silence. Not to mention the Blood Emperor and the other two, even the Golden Crow Fire Emperor, Thousand Eye Emperor and the other emperors in the battle turned to look with shocked expressions. Immediately after, an extremely terrifying power descended on the Blood Emperor. You. The Blood Emperor only had time to say a single word before he went silent. Right in front of the emperors, the Blood Emperor's blood chi deteriorated and thousands of blood vines withered, turning yellow. The Blood Emperor's true form shriveled and had already shrunk countless times. He was like an ordinary vine that was withered and yellow as he sprawled on the ground motionlessly without any signs of life. The emperors were horrified and their eyes were filled with endless shock and fear. Although the Hell Witch Emperor and Shadowless Emperor were not far from the Blood Emperor, they did not attack. It was already too late. Instantly, the Blood Emperor's lifespan was exhausted and he died. The Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, divine powers, secret skills and blood rebirth were all useless. A top emperor who comprehended 4 supreme divine powers and possessed combat strength equivalent to emperors of the human race who comprehended 6 supreme divine powers died just like that in front of the other emperors with his lifespan exhausted instantly. In fact, there was a strange pause in the battlefield above the Dragon Bone Valley. At that moment, many emperors who were fighting stopped. Initially, the Blood Emperor was an ordinary emperor who had only comprehended 2 supreme divine powers. The Blood Emperor had only suddenly risen in the past 1,000 years. In other words, the Blood Emperor was young with an age less than 20,000 years old. The lifespan of an emperor of the Blood Vine race was similar to an emperor of the human race. This meant that the Blood Emperor had at least 80,000 more years to live. However, in that instant the 80,000 years of lifespan turned into nothingness and vanished. The Blood Emperor did not even have the chance to resist or even react before he died. Fleeting moment. This was a divine power that was even more terrifying and domineering than the Time Saber. A supreme divine power. Although the Blood Emperor was dead, the Hell Witch Emperor, Shadowless Emperor and the others felt a chill. If that fleeting moment had descended above their heads earlier on, there was a high chance that one of them would have died. With the death of the Blood Emperor, the endless blood sea that trapped the Dragon Phoenix true body naturally dissipated gradually. An extremely massive power surged within the Dragon Phoenix true body and washed through his bloodline, body and even essence spirit continuously. His body was being tempered by the power of the second supreme divine power he comprehended. The aura of the Dragon Phoenix true body rose continuously and became stronger, as though there was no end to it. His wounds were healing at a visible speed as well. Initially, the blood chi of the Dragon Phoenix true body was already weak. However, under the baptism of the supreme divine power, his blood chi surged and a powerful life force burst forth from his body once more. Bang, bang, bang. The 5 Fiend ghosts who were initially sprawled on the Dragon Phoenix true body were shattered by the supreme divine power released by the Dragon Phoenix true body. That woke the Hell Witch Emperor up completely as well. Don't just stand there. Hurry and get rid of the Divine Ho and the Green Lotus true body. The Hell Witch Emperor hurriedly commanded the emperors of the primordial races around him and shouted, I can still defend against this Dragon Phoenix for a while if I join forces with Shadowless. Many emperors reacted one after another. The battle between emperors broke out once more. At that moment, only the Hell Witch Emperor and Shadowless Emperor were left opposite the Dragon Phoenix true body. The Shadowless Emperor looked at the Dragon Phoenix true body with a wary gaze. Shadowless, don't worry. The Hell Witch Emperor said in a deep voice, although that supreme divine power is terrifying, it's impossible for him to release a second one in a short period of time. The Shadowless Emperor took a deep breath and calmed down as well. The Hell Witch Emperor continued, we just have to hold him back and wait for the Golden Crowfire Emperor and Thousand Eye Emperor to deal with the Divine Ho and for the Green Lotus true body to die. At that time, with so many emperors joining forces, no matter how strong this Dragon Phoenix is, he'll have to die here. Ha 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 ha. The Dragon Phoenix roared in laughter and raging flames reignited around his body. With a torrential aura, he shouted, Hell Witch, Shadowless, the two of you think that you can hold me back. Die. The 2 pairs of wings behind the Dragon Phoenix true body flapped and crossed layers of space, descending in front of the Shadowless Emperor. He reached out with his gigantic, menacing Dragon Phoenix claw and grabbed the top of the Shadowless Emperor's head. Hell Blood Shield. The Shadowless Emperor was alarmed and did not have time to think as he channeled his essence spirit hurriedly to condense the supreme divine power of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. A shield made of blood appeared above his head. Blood light surged on the surface of the shield and a strange blood face could vaguely be seen. The Dragon Phoenix true body said coldly, how dare you come out still? Destroy. The Dragon Phoenix claw shone with a cold glint and the Dragon Phoenix flames expanded, piercing into the blood shield. The blood face was torn apart by the Dragon Phoenix claw instantly. Splash. The Dragon Phoenix flames burned blood and smoke billowed. The next moment, The hell blood shield was pierced by the dragon phoenix claw. The emperors who caught sight of that were alarmed. Even supreme divine powers could not defend against the power of the taboo dragon phoenix. Shing. The dragon phoenix claw descended and tore the shadowless emperor's lower body into two. Fresh blood dripped and countless organs spilled. However, the shadowless emperor had already vanished from the dragon phoenix claw. There was a supreme divine power fluctuation on the spot. Instant transference. In that moment of life and death, the shadowless emperor used a supreme divine power and teleported away, escaping from the dragon phoenix claw. If he was half a step slower earlier on, he would have died. Chapter 1725 Blood-Boiling Spear. Chapter 1725 Blood-Boiling Spear. In midair far away, a fluctuation appeared in space. The shadowless emperor dragged his damaged body and teleported away from the dragon phoenix claw, revealing himself. His face was pale as he hurriedly channeled blood rebirth to reconstruct his lower body. Even so, he was scared out of his wits. The taboo dragon phoenix was able to release such terrifying power after comprehending 2 supreme divine powers. Although he had comprehended 4 supreme divine powers and his combat strength was at its peak, a single supreme divine power was no longer enough to defend against the killing power of the taboo dragon phoenix. The emperors were shocked when they saw that. The Blood Emperor died and the Shadowless Emperor escaped death. As for the Dragon Phoenix, his combat strength increased exponentially and his aura was torrential. The situation changed instantly. The Blood Emperor was a top emperor. The death of the Blood Emperor was a huge loss for the primordial 6 races. The outcome of this battle would affect the situation between the other emperors as well. On the side of the human emperors, the storyteller, Long Ran and the others were invigorated. With the help of the Azura Yen Beichen, although there were not enough emperors, the situation was stabilized and there was even a chance for a counterattack. On the other side, the Golden Crowfire Emperor and Thousand Eye Emperor were initially joining forces to fight Night Spirit. However, now that the Blood Emperor was dead and the Taboo Dragon Phoenix had comprehended a second divine power, the Hell Witch Emperor and Shadowless Emperor alone were not enough to deal with the attacks of the Taboo Dragon Phoenix. I'll help them. I'll leave this divine hoe to you. The Thousand Eye Emperor made a decision immediately. The Taboo Divine Hoe was already severely injured and the Golden Crowfire Emperor alone would be enough. That way, he could join forces with the Shadowless Emperor and Hell Witch Emperor to fight against the Taboo Dragon Phoenix. Don't worry, leave this beast to me. The Golden Crowfire Emperor said coldly. In a flash, the Thousand Eye Emperor arrived on the other side and joined forces with the Shadowless Emperor and Hell Witch Emperor to surround the Dragon Phoenix true body. Apocalyptic Eye. The heavenly eye on the Thousand Eye Emperor's glabella opened and it was pitch black, filled with the aura of death. At the same time, the Thousand Eye Emperor's eyes turned completely black. Of those 3 black eyes, the heavenly eye was the core while the other 2 eyes were the supports. They formed 3 gigantic black holes in midair. The 3 black holes were like 3 black suns that emanated an extremely terrifying aura as though they wanted to destroy everything. The Apocalyptic Eye was a supreme divine power that could only be cultivated with the bloodline of the Heavenly Eye race. Back at the 10,000 race meet, the Black Eye Emperor released this supreme divine power against the Eternal Human Emperor. However, it was shattered by the supreme divine power, Permitha Bridge, and he was killed by the Eternal Human Emperor. 3 pitch-black beams of light burst forth from the 3 black holes and converged into a single spot in midair, forming an even more terrifying pitch-black beam of light. The power released by the beam of light seemed like it wanted to destroy everything. The power of the pitch-black beam of light contained almost all the divine powers, dermic arts and even the blood chi of the Heavenly Eye race. It was extremely terrifying. The reason why it was called Apocalyptic Eye was because there were essence spirit attacks mixed in. This was no longer a simple visual technique. At the same time, an extremely powerful aura emanated from the Shadowless Emperor's body. Gulp. Gulp. In fact, a strange sound could be heard from within the Shadowless Emperor's body, like boiling water. There was naturally no water in the Shadowless Emperor's body. That was the sound of his bloodline boiling. Blood chi surged from the Shadowless Emperor and his eyes were bloodshot. He pointed at the Dragon Phoenix true body through the void and shouted, "Blood-boiling spear." The boiling blood chi in his body rapidly formed a gigantic spear in midair that was scarlet. The spear was like an iron spear that was burned red and emitted a scorching heat. That was a supreme divine power of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. The Dragon Phoenix true body sensed an extremely evil aura from the blood-boiling spear. When that supreme divine power was released, the Shadowless Emperor's body swayed and his face turned even paler. He was much weaker and looked dispirited. Although the blood-boiling spear was powerful, it required half of his essence blood and consumed a lot of energy. However, the Shadowless Emperor had no choice. If he lost this battle, he would die. Incinerating Curse. At the same time, the Hell Witch Emperor channeled his essence spirit and released another supreme divine power. A single supreme divine power could no longer suppress the taboo Dragon Phoenix. The only chance was if the three of them joined forces. The three of them did not hold back at all. The Hell Witch Emperor would not use the Incinerating Curse casually. If he wanted to release that supreme divine power, he had to incinerate his essence spirit. It was a method of incinerating his opponent by condensing a witch fire through the burning of his essence spirit. The witch fire did not only burn the body, but also the bloodline and soul. A fist-sized ball of dark green flames appeared on the Hell Witch Emperor's bone staff and floated towards the Dragon Phoenix true body. Apocalyptic Eye, blood-boiling spear and incinerating curse descended at the same time. Roar! The Dragon Phoenix true body roared into the skies and his blood chi surged. The scales on his body burned with raging flames and shone with a bedazzling light. The Hell Witch Emperor and the other two frowned in pain. Even the emperors who were further away shuddered, let alone the three of them. This was a true taboo roar. The Dragon Phoenix true body soared into the skies and two pairs of golden and scarlet wings behind him flapped. The claws beneath his abdomen were menacing and sharp as he looked over with a burning gaze and torrential blood chi. Under the roar of the taboo bloodline, all the living beings of the 10,000 races felt a fear that came from the depths of their souls. The pitch-black beam of the apocalyptic eye descended first. The Dragon Phoenix true body did not dodge and channeled the divine power of six-tusked divine strength. The power in his body surged as he charged towards the pitch-black pillar of light. Many emperors were shocked when they saw that. The taboo Dragon Phoenix was probably the only one who could take a supreme divine power head-on with his body. Boom. There was a loud bang. The Dragon Phoenix true body created cracks on the pitch-black light column and it almost collapsed. Even the apocalyptic eye could not destroy the taboo. The spirit consciousness attack contained by the apocalyptic eye entered the consciousness of the Dragon Phoenix true body and was devoured by the blazing ball of light without a trace. The Thousand-Eye Emperor channeled his essence spirit wildly and blood even seeped out of his three eyes as he tried his best to condense the pitch-black light beam. Right then the blood-boiling spear descended. The Dragon Phoenix true body was fearless as he defended against the power of the apocalyptic eye while extending his gigantic, menacing Dragon Phoenix claw to grab the blood-boiling spear. Boom. The blood-boiling spear collided against the Dragon Phoenix claw with a loud bang. The Dragon Phoenix claw exerted strength and gripped the blood-boiling spear tightly. Green smoke even rose from his palm, but the Dragon Phoenix true body had no intention of letting go. The Shadowless Emperor was shocked. In fact, the blood-boiling spear was showing signs of breaking free from his control. The Shadowless Emperor channeled his essence spirit hurriedly as well and fought against the Dragon Phoenix true body for control of the blood-boiling spear through the void. On the other side, the dark green witch fire formed by the incinerating curse floated over. Chapter 1726, Pancadhi Dao Fire. Chapter 1726, Pancadhi Dao Fire. Although the witch fire was only the size of a fist and looked like it could be extinguished by a gust of wind, its power was extremely terrifying and could not be underestimated. The witch fire floated over at a moderate speed. However, a blank area appeared behind the witch fire. The entire void was refined into nothingness. The Dragon Phoenix true body blocked the apocalyptic eye and grabbed the blood-boiling spear. Suddenly, he turned around and opened his mouth, spewing out a stream of scorching flames. The moment the ball of flames arrived in midair, it formed scarlet lava that spewed towards the witch fire in a steaming manner. Splash! Splash! The two flames collided in midair with an ear-piercing sound. The Hell Witch Emperor and the other two had grim expressions. Even though the three of them joined forces and released three supreme divine powers, they could not suppress the Dragon Phoenix true body. On the contrary, the Dragon Phoenix true body defended against the three supreme divine powers and his aura continued to climb as though there was no limit. The dragon phoenix that comprehended two supreme divine powers was way too terrifying. On the other side, the situation of the Green Lotus true body was turning more dangerous. Against the encirclement of the 9 emperors of the primordial races, even the Green Lotus true body coupled with everlasting vitality could not recover the power of blood chi and essence spirit. The Green Lotus true body was battered and filled with injuries, it was on the brink of collapse. The 9 emperors of the primordial races realized that the Hell Witch Emperor's side was in a predicament and their attacks intensified. God's Kingdom. Eye of the Storm. Phantom Slash. Endless Blood Sea. The 9 emperors of the primordial races released supreme divine powers one after another, prepared to kill the Green Lotus true body completely with this attack. Su Zimo stood looking at the 9 supreme divine powers that descended with a calm expression without any panic in his eyes. Suddenly, extending his bloodied hands, Su Zimo conjured hand seals and channeled his essence spirit. Whoosh! Suddenly, 3 balls of flames of different colors appeared beside him. Scarlet Immortal Dao Fire. Golden Buddhist Dao Fire. Black Fiend Dao Fire. The 3 balls of flames began to emit the aura of divine powers. The Dao Fires had already been cultivated by Su Zimo to the level of a lesser divine power. Samadhi Dao Fire? How dare you embarrass yourself with such an insignificant skill? An emperor of the god race sneered. Although the Samadhi Dao Fire was strong, it was nothing in the eyes of an emperor. The 3 Dao Fires gathered rapidly in front of Su Zimo, forming a tricolored flame. Immediately after, another essence spirit fire floated out from Su Zimo's glabella and entered the tricolored flame. The Kacharati Dao Fire was formed. Although it was only an additional flame from Samadhi to Kacharati, there was a qualitative change. The aura of the ball of flames surged and turned into a greater divine power from a lesser divine power. Ha 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 ha. An emperor of the Golden Crow race roared in laughter. So, it's a greater divine power. I actually thought that it was going to be some incredible force. Indeed, the limit of the Kacharati Dao Fire was only a greater divine power. Therefore, from the beginning of the battle, Su Zimo had not released the Kacharati Dao Fire. In a battle of this level, apart from a unique greater divine power like the Time Saber, other greater divine powers could not pose a threat to the emperors present. The other emperors sneered as well. Su Zimo did not laugh. Naturally, he would not release a mere greater divine power like the Kacharati Dao Fire. But now he was not alone. His other true body was not far away. There was also an extremely terrifying supreme flame on the Dragon Phoenix true body, the Dragon Phoenix Flame. There was no need for their spirit consciousnesses to transmit messages. Both true bodies were telepathic. With a single thought from Su Zimo, the Dragon Phoenix true body knew his plans. The Dragon Phoenix true body blocked the 3 supreme divine powers. At the same time, his gigantic divine phoenix tail swung and condensed a ball of essence fire of the Dragon Phoenix Flame. It tore through the air and landed in the Kacharati Dao Fire. The aura of the Kacharati Dao Fire transformed instantly. A power that made the 9 emperors of the primordial races shudder burst forth and swept through the 9 heavens, spreading through the 8 desolates. The Pancadhi One Dao Fire was formed. Su Zimo held the ball of flames with both hands and burned the skies. The 9 supreme divine powers descended and could not suppress the ball of flames. All of them stopped and fought against the ball of flames. That power had far surpassed the realm of greater divine powers. That was a supreme divine power. Under normal circumstances, the conditions to fuse another flame to form the Pancadhi Dao Fire were extremely stringent and difficult. If the power of the flames was insufficient and fused with the Kacharati Dao Fire, it would be devoured without any reaction. Even if the power of the flames was sufficient, the process to fuse with the Kacharati Dao Fire would be extremely long with multiple attempts required. However, the Dragon Phoenix Flame was different. First, the power of the Dragon Phoenix Flame was sufficiently strong. In fact, to a certain extent, the Dragon Phoenix Flame was even stronger than the 3 Dao Fires that Su Zimo had condensed. Second, the Dragon Phoenix Flame would not reject the Kacharati Dao Fire. That was because be it the Dragon Phoenix true body or the Green Lotus true body, they were both Su Zimo. The 2 true bodies were one to begin with. Although the divine powers and dermic arts they comprehended could not be connected, the Dragon Phoenix Flame would not reject the Green Lotus true body. Therefore, it could be said that the fusion of the Dragon Phoenix Flame into the Kacharati Dao Fire happened naturally without any obstacles. Up till this point of his cultivation, Su Zimo had cultivated 3 true bodies. Among them, the Green Lotus True Body and Dragon Phoenix True Body appeared at the same time in the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley and joined forces to fight against all the heroes in the world. They saved Night Spirit and escaped. However, be it the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley or this battle, the 2 true bodies merely joined forces. But this time round, the 2 true bodies were fused in a certain sense. However, this pseudo-fusion truly unveiled why these 2 true bodies were so terrifying. The 9 emperors of the primordial races were shocked and the sneer from earlier on froze on their faces as they watched with widened eyes. Crack, crack, crack. In the terrifying flames, the 9 supreme divine powers began to tremble. The god's kingdom in the hands of the god race emperor began to collapse and crack. The endless blood sea of the Bloodvine Emperor was also boiled by the terrifying flames, turning into endless blood chi that dissipated into the world. The blood sea evaporated rapidly and decreased. In the blink of an eye, the blood sea transformed into a blood-colored lake. What truly shocked the 9 emperors of the primordial races was that after Su Zimo released that supreme divine power, the Green Lotus True Body underwent the baptism of a 3rd supreme divine power. He made use of the Dragon Phoenix Flame to condense the Pancadhi Tao Fire. The Green Lotus True Body comprehended the essence of incinerating firmament boiling sea and the 3rd supreme divine power. The power of the supreme divine power began to wash through the bloodline and body of the Green Lotus True Body, including his essence spirit. The blood chi of the Green Lotus True Body rose rapidly. The power of his essence spirit recovered quickly as well. Under such circumstances, Su Zimo channeled his supreme divine power, everlasting vitality. In the blink of an eye, his injuries were mostly healed. However, his strength was still rising. Chapter 1727, Sweep. Chapter 1727, Sweep. The flames in midair burned hotter and more terrifying. Even the Hell Witch Emperor and the other top emperors in the distance felt their hearts skip a beat, let alone the 9 emperors who were attacking the Green Lotus True Body. That was because Su Zimo had comprehended a 3rd supreme divine power and his strength had increased exponentially. The power of the Pancadhi Tao Fire rose as well and became stronger. At that moment, the Green Lotus True Body was no longer weaker than the Hell Witch Emperor and the others in terms of strength and crushed the 9 emperors of the primordial races around him completely. The moment the Green Lotus True Body comprehended the 3rd supreme divine power, the situation had reversed completely. Crack, crack, crack. Under the burning of the Pancadhi Tao Fire, the 9 supreme divine powers could not withstand it and collapsed one after another. The god's kingdom and the endless blood sea were burned into nothingness. A Bloodvine Emperor did not manage to take on human form and was still in his true form, rooted in midair. He could not escape from the burning of the Pancadhi Tao Fire. The Bloodvine Emperor was incinerated to death by the Pancadhi Tao Fire on the spot. Up till this point of the battle, of the 9 emperors of the primordial races who surrounded Su Zimo, only 8 remained. Su Zimo's counterattack had just begun. 3 heads 6 arms. After comprehending incinerating firmament boiling sea, Su Zimo's blood chi and essence spirit had already recovered to their peak and he released that supreme divine power once more. Kill? Su Zimo's 3 heads opened their mouths at the same time and released the thunderclap kill sound domain secret skill. Given his strength, a single thunderclap kill was enough to affect the surrounding emperors. When released by 3 heads at the same time, a witch emperor not far away bled from all 7 orifices. He was stunned on the spot with a dazed expression. The bloodline of the witch race was weak and was not much stronger than ordinary humans. How could they withstand such a terrifying sound domain attack? Bang. A black shadow more than 5 feet tall charged over and smashed the body of the witch emperor into a blood mist without a corpse left. The essence spirit of the witch emperor was killed on the spot before it could escape. There were only 7 emperors of the primordial races left beside Su Zimo. The black shadow that killed the witch emperor was none other than the bronze square tripod that fell to the side in the battle against the supreme divine power. The Dragon Phoenix True Body did not need the bronze square tripod right now, so the Green Lotus True Body could borrow it. His 3 palms held the human emperor's seal, creation lotus platform and bronze square tripod respectively. The other 3 palms spun into the crowd barehanded. At that moment, the Green Lotus True Body had undergone the baptism of 3 supreme divine powers. Although it had yet to break through to grade 9, it was already at the peak of grade 8. Apart from treasures like the human emperor's seal and bronze square tripod, most dermic treasures could not compare to the fist of the green lotus true body. Boom, boom, boom. Some of the remaining 7 emperors that surrounded Su Zimo could no longer release supreme divine powers and could only fight with their dermic treasures. Boom. Su Zimo wielded the bronze square tripod and suppressed down. The gigantic golden sword in the hands of the God Race Emperor was crushed into more than 10 shards by the bronze square tripod and scattered. Before the God Race Emperor could escape, he was smashed down by Su Zimo's other arm that was holding the human emperor's seal. Poof. The head of the God Race Emperor was smashed by the human emperor's seal. With 3 heads 6 arms, the attacks were relentless and the other party would not have any breathing space at all. Prior to this, the Green Lotus true body had only comprehended 2 supreme divine powers and could only barely protect himself when he was surrounded. But now, the emperors that surrounded him were shattered into pieces the moment they charged forward. Some emperors of the primordial races released supreme divine powers to stop Su Zimo. However, they were shattered by Su Zimo with the bronze square tripod. This was a suppression of strength. He could break all dermic arts with brute force. 5, 4, 3. Twisting his 3 heads, Su Zimo waved his 6 arms and held the bronze square tripod, human emperor's seal and creation lotus platform in his palms. He pushed forward and trampled the corpses of the emperors of the primordial races one after another, sweeping through everything. The 9 emperors of the primordial races that surrounded him initially were not weak either. They were all experts who had comprehended 3 supreme divine powers. But now there were only 3 left after they were destroyed by Su Zimo. Of the 3 emperors, 2 were from the Rakshasa race and 1 was from the Golden Crow race. They managed to survive thanks to their agile movement techniques. Su Zimo had 3 heads 6 arms and radiated with a green glow right now. The 3 emperors of the primordial races were scared out of their wits at the sight of him. The 3 emperors of the primordial races did not dare to resist and turned to flee. Trying to flee? Su Zimo sneered and his glabella shone. A green glow burst forth and tore through the air, descending on a Rakshasa emperor right away. It was the green lotus sword formed from 72 lotus seeds. It was a killing technique targeted at the essence spirit. If this was an ordinary battle and the Rakshasa emperor maintained his composure, there was no way he would be slashed by the green lotus sword. It would have been useless. But now, the Rakshasa emperor was scared out of his wits and wanted to escape from this place. His reaction was slower and his consciousness was pierced by the green lotus sword, slicing his essence spirit into 2. Relying on his terrifying movement technique, the Rakshasa emperor had already fled to the horizon when he suddenly paused and fell from midair, dying on the spot. The remaining 2 emperors of the primordial races had already vanished. Su Zimo ignored them and turned to charge towards Night Spirit's battlefield. The expressions of the Hell Witch Emperor and the others turned extremely terrible. With so many emperors of the primordial 6 races dead and 2 of them escaping, the situation was almost over for them. The emperors of the primordial 6 races who were fighting against the emperors of the human and dragon races were also flustered. Although they were still in a stalemate, all of them were scared out of their wits, afraid that the fiend celestial with 3 heads and 6 arms would rush to their side and kill them one after another. A dim look flashed through the Hell Witch Emperor's eyes as he sighed internally. He knew very well that the primordial 6 races had lost this battle. Desolate Martial's 2 true bodies had already risen and he could no longer be suppressed by the power of the primordial 6 races. If they were to continue resisting and fight Desolate Martial at this moment, even they would have to die here. On the other side, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor initially wanted to kill Night Spirit. However, when he caught sight of Su Zimo waving his 6 arms and charging over murderously, his expression changed starkly. Not good. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor's heart skipped a beat. He knew that the current Green Lotus True Body was enough to fight him head-on alone. If the Green Lotus True Body were to join forces with the Taboo Divine Ho, he would definitely die. At that thought, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor flapped his wings and prepared to escape without hesitation. He did not even intend to inform the Hell Witch Emperor and the others. Poof. Suddenly, a cold light flashed and pierced one of his wings. Fresh blood splattered. Ah! The Golden Crow Fire Emperor shrieked. How dare you get distracted in front of me? Night Spirit's voice sounded in the Golden Crow Fire Emperor's ears in a sinister manner. Even if the Taboo Divine Ho was severely injured, it would still possess killing methods that others could not match. Chapter 1728 Thousand Eye Burial. Chapter 1728 Thousand Eye Burial. Incinerating Firmament Boiling Sea. Without hesitation, the Golden Crowfire Emperor channeled his essence spirit and released a supreme divine power, wanting to force Night Spirit back. However, he was still a little too slow. A phantom-like figure had already arrived beside him and its sharp claws pierced his body, locking him tightly. Night Spirit opened his mouth and bared his sharp fangs, biting the Golden Crowfire Emperor's neck into two as fresh blood spewed and stained the void. Before the supreme divine power of the Golden Crowfire Emperor could be formed, it was interrupted by Night Spirit. In reality, Night Spirit was severely injured because the Golden Crowfire Emperor and Thousand Eye Emperor had joined forces. Furthermore, he was only injured because he wanted to help Suzumo. Right now, the Thousand Eye Emperor, Hell Witch Emperor and Shadowless Emperor joined forces to defend against the Dragon Phoenix true body. The remaining Golden Crowfire Emperor could not kill Night Spirit at all. On the contrary, if the Golden Crowfire Emperor was slightly distracted, Night Spirit would seize the opportunity to retaliate and almost kill him on the spot. Swoosh! A golden crow flew out and sped into the distance. It was the essence spirit of the Golden Crowfire Emperor. His essence spirit circulated blood rebirth in midair and reconstructed his body. It appeared and flapped its wings, wanting to escape. However, the moment his body appeared, a person appeared before him. 3 heads 6 arms, Martial Emperor Suzumo. Bang! Suzumo raised the bronze square tripod and smashed it down on the Golden Crowfire Emperor's head with an aggressive aura. The Golden Crowfire Emperor had no chance to react or dodge and could only escape with his essence spirit once more. Poof! The Golden Crowfire Emperor's body was shattered by Suzumo's bronze square tripod once more. Suzumo sneered, "You think you can escape after I join forces with Night Spirit?" If either Suzumo or Night Spirit attacked with their full strength, they would be able to suppress the Golden Crowfire Emperor. With the two of them joining forces, the Golden Crowfire Emperor could only flee everywhere, but there was nowhere to go. The moment his essence spirit escaped and reconstructed his body, it would definitely be shattered by Suzumo or Night Spirit. In that short few breaths, the Golden Crowfire Emperor had already reconstructed his body 4 times. As for his dodging space, it was getting smaller and was almost locked down by Suzumo and Night Spirit. There was nowhere to run or hide. "Martial Emperor, can you show mercy and spare my life?" Finally, the Golden Crowfire Emperor could not hold on any longer and begged for mercy. Suzumo's expression was cold and he was unmoved. If the Dragon Phoenix true body had not comprehended fleeting moment earlier on and the Green Lotus true body had not comprehended a third supreme divine power and rushed over in time, Night Spirit would have died. Trap. Suzumo's expression was unchanged as he waved his finger and wrote the word, trap, in midair. Divine power spread. A strange energy fluctuation appeared in midair and formed a prison that trapped the Golden Crowfire Emperor within. This was only a greater divine power. Under normal circumstances, it could not trap the Golden Crowfire Emperor. However, the Golden Crowfire Emperor only had an essence spirit left. After consecutive battles and reconstruction of his body, his essence spirit became extremely weak. The Golden Crowfire Emperor could not even break free from that greater divine power right now. His essence spirit collided against the prison and trembled, emitting green smoke. The Golden Crowfire Emperor shrieked repeatedly. Swoosh! A black light tore through the air. Night Spirit swung his tail and stabbed into the cage, piercing the Golden Crowfire Emperor's essence spirit. The Golden Crowfire Emperor was dead. Up till this point of the battle, 2 of the 5 top emperors of the primordial races had already died. The remaining Hell Witch, Shadowless and Thousand Eye Emperors no longer had the intention to fight. The 3 emperors retracted their divine powers and turned to flee. On the battlefield of the Dragon Bone Valley, the void was already shattered by the battle of the emperors. Nobody could escape through the void tunnels. The 3 emperors could only rely on their movement techniques to leave this place first. However, the 3 emperors had different movement techniques. Now that they were sprinting with their might, the difference was obvious. As a Rakshasa, the Shadowless Emperor was the fastest and escaped to the horizons almost instantly. Unexpectedly, the Hell Witch Emperor released a supreme divine power curse at an astonishing speed and followed closely behind the Shadowless Emperor. The Thousand Eye Emperor was the slowest and was the last. Although the Thousand Eye Emperor had also cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, his blood escape technique was not at the level of a supreme divine power. Naturally, he was the last. Night Spirit, stay here and leave the three of them to me, Su Zimo said in a deep voice. Night Spirit's injuries were more serious and he could help the emperors of the human race, the Azura Yen Baichen and the others by staying here. Su Zimo's two true bodies had just comprehended divine powers and his combat strength was almost at its peak. Although the Hell Witch Emperor and the other two left first, it was only a matter of time before his two true bodies caught up. Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body chased in the direction of the Hell Witch Emperor and the other two. The Dragon Phoenix true body possessed the Dragon Phoenix wings and the Golden Rock wings. His speed was shocking. Although the Green Lotus true body's movement technique could not compare to the Dragon Phoenix true body, it possessed many escape techniques and secret skills and followed closely behind. Before long, the two true bodies closed in on the Thousand Eye Emperor rapidly. The Thousand Eye Emperor realized that he could not escape at all. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before the two true bodies caught up to him and killed him on the spot. Desolate Marshal, I'll fight you to the death. The Thousand Eye Emperor's eyes shone with madness as he turned around and condensed his essence spirit once more, releasing a supreme divine power. Thousand Eye Burial. Poof. The heavenly eye on the Thousand Eye Emperor's glabella suddenly exploded and fresh blood spewed, releasing an extremely terrifying energy fluctuation. Poof. Poof. Immediately after, the Thousand Eye Emperor's eyes exploded as well and 3 bloody holes appeared on his face. However, the power released by the shattered heavenly eye gathered rapidly around the Thousand Eye Emperor. Rows of eyes appeared densely in the void behind the Thousand Eye Emperor, all of them opening at the same time. The thousand eyes widened and bulged with bloodshot eyes as they watched Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body charge over. Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body felt a chill run down their spines. Anyone else would feel uncomfortable being stared at by 1,000 eyes. Furthermore, the might of the Thousand Eye Burial was indeed extremely terrifying. In the ancient era, there was only one emperor of the Heavenly Eye race who cultivated it. In the battle against the Eternal Human Emperor, he even injured the latter. The reason why the Thousand Eye Burial was so powerful was because it required the sacrifice of all the Tao and Dharmic arts in the Heavenly Eye to condense that supreme divine power. It was so terrifying that it could even bury the world. The cultivation of the Heavenly Eye race was within the Heavenly Eye on his glabella. That supreme divine power was equivalent to the Thousand Eye Emperor's lifetime of cultivation. Now that he released Thousand Eye Burial, even if he could not bury Su Zimo's 2 true bodies, he would become a cripple himself. Chapter 1729 Yin Yang Fishes. Chapter 1729, Yin Yang Fishes. Buzz. 1,000 eyes shone at the same time and descended on Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body instantly. Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body did not dare to be careless and hurriedly channeled their blood chi to its limits to defend against the Thousand Eye Burial. Boom. There was a loud bang. Although 1,000 rays of light that could bury the world landed on Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body, the two of them could not be buried. However, the power of the Thousand Eye Burial was extremely terrifying as well. Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body did not have any supreme divine powers to release. They could not break through the obstruction of the Thousand Eyes in a short period of time with just their blood chi and bodies. Of course, given Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body's current strength, they were still above the Thousand Eye Emperor. Poof, poof, poof. The eyes around the Thousand Eye Emperor shattered into nothingness one after another as well. However, if Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body exploded the Thousand Eyes completely, the Hell Witch Emperor and Shadowless Emperor would have fled long ago. Tianhuang mainland was way too huge. Furthermore, there were other secrets. If the 2 top emperors were allowed to escape and hide, who knew what sort of calamity would descend in the future? Roar. The Dragon Phoenix true body reared his head and cried into the skies, letting out a deafening roar. Immediately after, the eyes of the Dragon Phoenix true body shone with a bedazzling glow as 2 blinding beams of light shot towards the Shadowless Emperor. That was Illumination Eye. The Illumination Eye had already transformed into the innate divine power of the Dragon Phoenix true body. Furthermore, as long as there was enough time, the Dragon Phoenix true body was confident that he could cultivate the Illumination Eye to the level of a supreme divine power. Right now, Illumination Eye could only be considered as a greater divine power. Against a supreme divine power like the Thousand Eye Burial, Illumination Eye was naturally insignificant. However, if the Dragon Phoenix true body wanted to break through the Thousand Eye Emperor's obstruction as soon as possible, he had to release all his trump cards. Su Zimo did not hesitate either. Suddenly his eyes turned dark as ink. Two dark beams of light burst forth from his eyes as well, emitting a cold aura. They condensed into a single point and charged towards the Thousand Eye Emperor. The nether glow eye burst forth at the same time. Right now, those two visual techniques could only be considered as greater divine powers. However, when the blinding light released by Illumination Eye and the dark light released by Nether Glow Eye collided in midair, an extremely strange energy fluctuation was formed. The power of the two visual techniques did not collide with the Thousand Eye Emperor. On the contrary, the power of the two visual techniques condensed into two balls of light in midair. One was black and the other was white, attracting and chasing one another. The two balls of light seemed to possess some sort of sentience, as though they were playing and fusing with one another. Su Zimo's mind exploded when he saw that. In his senses, everything seemed to have vanished. The black and white balls of light were the only things in his line of sight. The two balls of light tugged continuously like two gigantic fish that were connected head to tail. They chased after one another and spun continuously, forming a strange scene. Suddenly, Su Zimo recalled that the red-headed ghost had told him some legends about the Illumination Stone. Illumination represented the power of extreme yang. Nether Glow represented the power of extreme yin. Under normal circumstances, the two completely different powers were at odds with one another. However, the Illumination Stone was in the Dragon Phoenix true body and the Nether Glow Stone was in the Green Lotus true body. The two true bodies were one to begin with. That was the reason why the two extreme powers were able to create such a strange scene. The yin-yang fishes were chasing one another. The power of yin and yang spun slowly as though they were harmless. However, as the yin-yang fishes spun, everything in the surroundings seemed to be devoured into nothingness. Space collapsed, light distorted, dermic powers were incorporeal and divine powers dissipated. Everything was gradually devoured by the pursuit of the yin-yang fishes. Even time was messed up. Su Zimo did not notice anything in his current state. Right in front of many emperors, the two visual techniques were released and the thousand eyes on the other end shattered as the two black and white balls of light chased one another. The two black and white balls of light did not even manage to touch the thousand eyes on the other end before the supreme divine power turned into nothingness. But the emperors who saw that gasped. What sort of power was that? In the face of the two black and white balls of light, the supreme divine power, Thousand Eye Burial, collapsed in less than a breath. The yin-yang fishes chased faster and faster. The two powers rose continuously. The power released by the yin-yang fishes became increasingly terrifying as well. In the end, Su Zimo could even sense the two fishes biting one another wildly. Su Zimo cut off the Nether Glow Eye hurriedly. The balance of power was broken and the yin-yang fishes exploded on the spot, releasing an extremely terrifying energy fluctuation that swept in all directions. Boom. There was a loud bang. Su Zimo was jolted awake by a dull pain in his eyes. A trickle of blood flowed out from the eyes of the Dragon Phoenix true body as well. It was a little terrifying. Su Zimo's face was a little pale and he felt a sense of trepidation. Thankfully, he severed the Nether Glow Eye in time. If the two powers continued rising, they would definitely break free from his control in the end. At that time, if he was careless, his eyes would not be the only ones bleeding. His two true bodies were most likely going to die. That was no exaggeration. That was because Su Zimo could sense an extremely terrifying power from the yin-yang fishes. What was revealed earlier on was merely a fraction of it. Su Zimo turned around instinctively. The Thousand Eye Burial had long dissipated. In midair opposite, the Thousand Eye Emperor stood motionlessly with a lost expression. Suddenly, the Thousand Eye Emperor's body began to collapse. Under Su Zimo's gaze, it gradually turned into nothingness without even a single drop of blood leaking. The Thousand Eye Emperor was killed by the power of the yin-yang fishes earlier on. Su Zimo took a deep breath of air and composed himself before continuing to chase after the Hell Witch Emperor and Shadowless Emperor with the Dragon Phoenix true body. They had to kill the two emperors or there would be endless trouble. Above the skies of the Dragon Bone Valley, the Hell Witch Emperor and the other four top emperors were either dead or fleeing. Although the remaining emperors of the primordial six races were many, they had already broken down mentally and were in no mood to fight. The addition of Night Spirit to the battlefield caused a bloodbath. Even though Night Spirit had only comprehended a single supreme divine power and was severely injured, the many killing techniques released by him were not something that the emperors of the primordial races could defend against. Before long, the emperors of the primordial 6 races broke down completely and fled in all directions. The demon emperors of the 8 demon regions were either dead or injured. Of the 17 demon emperors, less than 5 were still alive. The 5 demon emperors knew that they could not escape and knelt on the ground one after another, begging for mercy. The storyteller, Long Ran, and the others were covered in injuries and panted heavily with exhausted expressions. They no longer had the strength to chase after the escaping emperors of the primordial races. Nearly half of the emperors of the human race were lost as well, and there were only a dozen left. However, this battle was not over yet. Chapter 1730 Invasion of the God Race. Chapter 1730, Invasion of the God Race. Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix True Body sprinted and chased after the Hell Witch Emperor and Shadowless Emperor. Initially, the two of them were speeding in one direction. However, when they arrived at the border of the North region, the two emperors split into 2 directions and fled separately. The eyes of the Hell Witch Emperor shone with ruthlessness and madness as he sped towards the habitat of the witch race in the Middle Continent. At the same time, he withdrew a talisman from his storage bag and tore it apart. Since things had come to this, he had no choice. He had to inform the witch race and prepare to use their final trump card. However, the Shadowless Emperor did not escape to his ancestral ground. After pondering for a moment, he changed directions and sprinted towards the Kunlun ruins in the west. The Shadowless Emperor's thoughts were simple. If he escaped to his ancestral ground, he would definitely lure Desolate Marshal over. At that time, the Rakshasas guarding the ancestral ground would be annihilated as well. The reason why he chose to escape to the Kunlun ruins was because he wanted to fight Desolate Marshal to the death. The Kunlun ruins had a divine power forbidden region and they would die together. When Su Zimo saw the Hell Witch Emperor and Shadowless Emperor split into 2 directions, he hesitated for a moment and decided to let the Dragon Phoenix True Body hunt down the Hell Witch Emperor. The direction of the Hell Witch Emperor was clearly the ancestral ground of the witch race. He did not know what other trump cards the Hell Witch Emperor would have if the latter returned to his ancestral ground. The witch race cultivated their essence spirits. As for the essence spirit of the Dragon Phoenix True Body, it was protected by a blazing ball of light, and it was difficult for any killing technique of the witch race targeted at the essence spirit to cause any damage to the Dragon Phoenix True Body. In that aspect, the Green Lotus True Body was comparatively weaker. At that thought, the 2 true bodies separated and chased after the Hell Witch Emperor and Shadowless Emperor respectively. Su Zimo released all his escape techniques and secret skills. The ethereal wings behind him spread and he used Heavenly Feet, Boundless Golden Light and Zephyr Thunder escape at the same time. His speed was at its limits and he transformed into a streak of light, shrinking the ground into inches and covering thousands of kilometers instantly. Even so, he could not shorten the distance between him and the Shadowless Emperor. Suddenly, a violent quake sounded from the extreme west. A blinding golden light burst forth from the skies of the Kunlun ruins, as though it wanted to tear through the firmaments. The energy fluctuation intensified and even extended to the entire Tianhuang mainland. Even the 4 regions, 3 oceans and 1 continent could sense it. Massive waves surged through the 3 oceans. The living beings of the 10,000 races that were fighting at the borders of the North region revealed shocked expressions as well. Only some God race experts looked at the golden light in the skies of the extreme west in deep thought. Some of the emperors of the God race seemed to have thought of something and their gazes shone brightly in high spirits. Su Zimo stopped in his tracks and looked at the extreme west with a grim expression. Something had happened. If he was not wrong, the commotion from the extreme west should have come from the Rainbow Cave. The God race had invaded. To think that the God race would invade Tianhuang mainland at this critical juncture. Under normal circumstances, with the existence of the divine power forbidden region in the Kunlun ruins, even if the God race invaded, they would only be at the conjoint body realm at most. They were of no threat to the current Su Zimo. However, more than 1,000 years had passed since the last battle in the Kunlun ruins. The power of the divine power forbidden region was getting weaker. Su Zimo would not be surprised if God's mainland possessed any methods that could break through the divine power forbidden region and enter Tianhuang mainland. The situation would be dire if the main army of God's mainland invaded Tianhuang mainland. God's mainland was a powerful civilization. Although they were both one of the billion minor kiliocosms, the god race had a powerful bloodline and could cultivate bloodline phenomenons from birth. Nobody knew how advanced the civilization of God's mainland was. There was a high chance that the invasion of God's mainland would be even more serious and terrifying than the alliance of the primordial 6 races. More importantly, right now, the 10,000 races of Tianhuang mainland were fighting against one another and suffered immense losses. Be it the demons, humans, or the primordial races, all of them suffered immense losses. The invasion of God's mainland at this moment was akin to adding insult to injury for Tianhuang mainland. Su Zimo stopped and looked towards the west. At that moment, he could only hope that the divine power forbidden region of the Kunlun ruins could be of some use and stop the emperors of God's mainland. The shadowless emperor paused as well and did not continue escaping towards the Kunlun ruins. Suddenly, the golden light above the Kunlun ruins intensified. Immediately after, incomparably powerful auras tore through the skies and transformed into blinding golden pillars of light that surged into the firmaments. Tianhuang mainland was shaken. The emperors of God's mainland had arrived. Only emperors could release such an aura and burst forth with such energy fluctuations. Indeed, before long, a large army of the god race appeared in the skies of the Kunlun ruins. They were dense, and the ones at the front were god race riders. Be it the horses or the god race riders, all of them were clad in armor. The horses of the god race were also heavenly horses with powerful bloodlines. There was a sharp horn on their foreheads that seemed like it could penetrate the firmaments. There were more than 10,000 god race riders, and all of them were at the conjoint body realm. There were 10,000 conjoint body god race beings. If he was not wrong, this was definitely the main force of God's mainland. Of course, the most striking thing was not the 10,000 conjoint body god race riders. In the middle of the god race riders were hundreds of god race patriarchs. Some of them wore armor and wielded swords. Some of them wore long robes and wielded staffs. However, every single god race being was extremely handsome and tall. The women were also incomparably beautiful with graceful figures. Among the hundreds of god race patriarchs, there were 4 emperors of the god race. There were 3 men and a woman, and they were all old. The 4 emperors of the god race held different weapons in their hands. An emperor of the god race wielded a gigantic sword. That gigantic sword was the sword of misfortune that had severely injured Su Zimo previously. Another god race emperor wielded a golden spear that shone with a terrifying aura, as though it could judge everything. The 3rd emperor held a pitch-black shield that emitted a dark aura. The 4th emperor wielded a shimmering divine staff. The 4 emperors each held a powerful divine weapon and channeled the power of the divine weapon, creating a passage through the divine power forbidden region above the Kunlun ruins. The god race army entered Tianhuang mainland safely. Su Zimo narrowed his gaze slightly and looked past the god race army and the hundreds of god race patriarchs to the 4 emperors. Be it the 10,000 conjoint body god race rider army, hundreds of god race patriarchs, 4 god race emperors, or 4 divine weapons, none of them were the most striking. In the middle of the god race army, surrounded by the 4 god race emperors, was a divine throne filled with gems and jade. There was no one holding it down below. However, the divine throne floated over and emitted a divine light. There was a person on the divine throne. The person wore a crown on his head and sat on the divine throne. He looked incomparably noble and dazzling. Even the 4 god race emperors had to obey his orders. The crown emanated a mysterious power that concealed the appearance of the god race being. Chapter 1731, Kill Him. Chapter 1731, Kill Him. Above the Dragon Bone Valley. A few disheveled god race emperors looked at the god race army that was approaching from the extreme west with excited expressions. It's finally here. The sword of misfortune, the shield of calamity, the staff of dawn, and the spear of judgment. The 4 divine judgment weapons of our god race have descended. Let's see who in Tianhuang mainland can defend against them. That should be the god emperor of our god's mainland on the throne. Some of the god race beings that were still fighting at the borders of the north region were even more excited. Although there were also emperors with different titles on God's mainland, only a single person was qualified to be the emperor of God's mainland and be called the God Emperor. Only the God Emperor was qualified to sit on that supreme throne and wear the God Emperor's crown. Legend has it that the crown of the God Emperor was an utmost treasure passed down from the God realm. Other races, including the God race themselves, Even emperors of the god race would die on the spot if they dared to sit on the throne of the god emperor. Without the recognition of the god emperor's crown, one would not be able to withstand the weight of the crown and would be crushed to death. One could only be the sole god emperor of God's mainland upon obtaining the recognition of the two utmost treasures. The civilization of God's mainland originated from these two treasures that were passed down from the god realm. It was an extremely shocking sight. Be it the fight between the emperors above the Dragon Bone Valley or the 10,000 races at the intersection of the North region, everything gradually stopped. The shadowless emperor froze in midair in shock. A moment later he snapped out of his stupor and frowned slightly. Turning back, he revealed a hesitant expression. At that moment he was sandwiched in the middle. Su Zimo was at the back and the God Race army at the front. Furthermore, the God Race army advanced extremely quickly and arrived in the middle continent before long, speeding towards the north region. Many God Race riders galloped in the firmaments and rode on clouds with a torrential aura. The entire void rumbled and trembled under the trampling of the God Race riders as cracks appeared in the void. Heaven and earth rumbled. The shadowless emperor pondered for a moment without turning back. He would definitely die against Su Zimo. Although the God Race army was menacing, the Rakshasa race was still on the same side as the God Race of Tianhuang mainland. Furthermore, as a top emperor, he was a top expert no matter which continent he was in. If he were to bring his Rakshasa race to partner with the God Race, the latter would definitely welcome them. At that thought, the shadowless emperor had a plan and charged towards the God Race army. I'm shadowless of the Rakshasa race and am one of the primordial 9 races of Tianhuang mainland along with the God Race. We're on the same side and fought hand in hand countless times. The shadowless emperor was still a distance away from the God Race army when he shouted, I'm willing to lead the Rakshasa race and join forces with our fellow Taoists of the God Race to suppress traitors like Desolate Marshal. How shameless. Long Ran could not help but curse when he saw that. The experts of the Kuan and barbarian races revealed indignant expressions as well. As one of the strongest emperors of Tianhuang mainland, the shadowless emperor was the first to submit to the invasion of foreign races. The shadowless emperor was very smart. He knew that if he charged forward rashly, there was a high chance he would attract the hostility of the God Race army. Therefore, even from afar, the shadowless emperor had already started shouting to express his goodwill with a sincere attitude. Indeed, the speed of the God Race army slowed down. Before long, the God Race army arrived before the shadowless emperor and opened up a path for him. In the blink of an eye, the shadowless emperor was surrounded by the God Race. Countless gazes landed on the shadowless emperor. As a top emperor of Tianhuang mainland, the shadowless emperor was still calm and fearless despite being surrounded by so many experts of another race. Greetings, fellow Taoists of the God Race. Against the hundreds of God Race patriarchs, the shadowless emperor did not show any arrogance. Instead, he cupped his fists and smiled. The 4 God Race emperors wielding the divine judgment weapons sized up the shadowless emperor with scrutinizing gazes. However, the 4 emperors of the God Race did not have any attitude on the surface. Instead, they turned to look at the person on the divine throne with inquiring expressions. The shadowless emperor could tell as well. Among the many God Race beings, the one with the highest and noblest status was the person sitting on the divine throne with the crown on his head. Even the 4 God Race emperors with powerful auras had to obey this person. However, that person's appearance was blurry under the cover of the crown. God Emperor, this person has submitted. How should we deal with him? The armored old man with the sword of misfortune on his back clutched his chest with his right hand and bowed slightly to the person on the divine throne, asking in a deep voice. The God Emperor raised his hand slightly. The shadowless emperor landed on that person's palm. It was a fair palm that was gentle and tender, even shimmering. It seemed to be the hand of a woman. Just as the shadowless emperor was letting his imagination run wild, the God Emperor spoke gently and said 2 words. Kill him. Before the shadowless emperor could react, a shout sounded from the side. Kill? The armored old man withdrew the sword of misfortune on his back and slashed down viciously at the shadowless emperor. Although the God Race emperor was already an old man, his blood chi was still extremely strong and surged into the skies. In the hands of the old man from the God Race, the sword of misfortune emanated a cold and evil aura. The black patterns on the sword shone brightly and released a black sword chi that tore through the air. The shadowless emperor was alarmed. He had not expected that after comprehending 4 supreme divine powers and choosing to submit as a top-tier emperor, the other party would not give him any chance of survival. The Shadowless Emperor summoned his destiny dermic treasure hurriedly, and 2 curved sabers that resembled moons blocked the sword of misfortune. Clang! There was a loud bang and sparks flew. The Shadowless Emperor shuddered and spat out blood. His dermic treasures, the curved sabers, in his hands were sent flying by the sword of misfortune. His reaction was slower to begin with, and he could not unleash his strength to its limits. Furthermore, he had just fought against Su Zimo and had expended a lot of blood chi, decreasing his combat strength significantly. Under such circumstances, the Shadowless Emperor was severely injured after receiving a direct attack from the God Race Emperor. The Sword of Misfortune sent the dermic treasures, the curved sabers, flying, and the gigantic sword slashed towards the Shadowless Emperor with a black glow. The Shadowless Emperor relied on the terrifying movement technique of the Rakshasa race to retreat with all his might. However, a gigantic gash appeared on his chest from the pitch-black sword beam of the Sword of Misfortune. That slash nearly sliced the Shadowless Emperor into 2. The Shadowless Emperor had a horrified expression as he glared at the old man from the God race with a conflicted expression: anger, confusion, and doubt. He could not understand. He did not have time to think about such things either. The old man from the God race strode towards him with the Sword of Misfortune in his hands. Instant transmission. Without hesitation, the Shadowless Emperor released his supreme divine power. Chapter 1732 Prison. Chapter 1732 Prison. Right now, the Shadowless Emperor was surrounded by the God Race army, and there were 3 emperors of the God Race who had yet to attack. If he wanted to escape, he could only use instant transference. However, when the Shadowless Emperor channeled his essence spirit, the supreme divine power dissipated before it was formed. The Shadowless Emperor's figure swayed and his face turned pale. He had failed. The supreme divine power he released had failed. The moment instant transference was about to be released, a dark power shrouded the Shadowless Emperor's essence spirit. That power did not cause much damage to his essence spirit. However, it isolated his connection with his supreme divine power, causing instant transference to fail. What happened? What is that? The Shadowless Emperor was shocked when he checked the dark power that was attached to his essence spirit. This change had truly shocked him. Suddenly, the Shadowless Emperor felt a sharp pain in his chest. Instinctively he looked down. The wound on his chest did not show any signs of stopping. On the contrary, the blood flowing out of his wound had already turned black. The flesh on both sides of the wound had already turned pitch black. Furthermore, the black power was still spreading through his entire body through the wound. It's that sword. The Shadowless Emperor's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly thought of an answer. You want to escape after being injured by the Sword of Misfortune? Right then, the old man from the God Race had already arrived behind the Shadowless Emperor and sliced the latter into 2. Blood and organs splattered all over the ground. The Shadowless Emperor's essence spirit was entangled by the power of misfortune and could not escape from his consciousness. It was killed by a single sword strike. The top emperor of the Rakshasa race was killed by 2 sword strikes from the old man of the God Race. In reality, if the Shadowless Emperor was in his peak condition, he might not have died in the battle against the old man of the God Race. However, his combat strength was less than half of his peak after the battle with Su Zimo. Furthermore, he had not expected the God Race to attack him. Coupled with the fact that he underestimated the power of the Sword of Misfortune, that was the reason for his death. All the living beings of the 10,000 races were stunned when they saw that. The expressions of the storyteller, Long Ran, and the others turned extremely terrible. Although they did not fight the old man from the God Race, they could tell that his combat strength was definitely not weaker than the Hell Witch Emperor and the others. Furthermore, the fact that the God Race killed the Shadowless Emperor without hesitation was a clear indication of their stance. The God Race might start a massacre in Tianhuang mainland. It was useless even if they submitted. All right. Good kill. The many God Race beings of Tianhuang mainland were naturally invigorated and excited. They had endured enough humiliation after being abandoned by the 10,000 races of Tianhuang mainland all these years. Today it was finally their turn to feel proud. At that moment, the Hell Witch Emperor had already returned to the Witch race's ancestral ground. Looking at everything from afar, the Hell Witch Emperor sneered and murmured, "God's mainland? Fufu, when the time comes, I'll make sure all of you stay in Tianhuang mainland. From now on, Tianhuang mainland will belong to the witch race. With that said, the Hell Witch Emperor entered a valley in the witch race's ancestral ground in a flash. There were hundreds of thousands of witches waiting for his orders. Suddenly, cracks appeared in midair above the middle continent. The three god race emperors above the Dragon Bone Valley took advantage of the chaos to escape. They tore through the void and descended here. Some god race patriarchs sped over excitedly as well. Greetings, God Emperor. The three god race emperors were covered in injuries and looked wretched. When they passed through the god race army and arrived before the god emperor, they knelt down. Your Majesty, you're finally here. We've waited for this day for way too long. Your Majesty, please give the order. We'll sweep through the 10,000 races with the god race army and conquer Tianhuang mainland completely. The three god race emperors shouted. The god emperor on the divine throne remained motionless and silent. The three god race emperors shouted for a long time but gradually calmed down when they received no response. Your Majesty, what's wrong? A god race emperor said carefully, right now the 10,000 races of Tianhuang mainland are fighting and countless experts of the 10,000 races have died. This is the best opportunity. That's right. Another god race emperor added hurriedly, right now the only threat in Tianhuang mainland is the martial emperor of the human race. As long as we kill the martial emperor, Tianhuang mainland will no longer be a threat. Martial emperor, martial emperor. The god emperor on the throne suddenly murmured. That's right, the martial emperor. When the god race emperor below heard the reply, he was invigorated and said hurriedly, the martial emperor's Dao title is Desolate Martial and he has two true bodies. However, the two true bodies have expended a lot of energy after this battle. The god emperor raised his hand slowly. The god race emperor stopped hurriedly. For some reason, every single move of the god emperor possessed an unstoppable might. Although he was an emperor, he did not dare to offend the god emperor. Tie them up. The god emperor said indifferently. Understood. The four god race emperors beside the divine throne nodded slightly and walked towards the three god race emperors of Tianhuang mainland. Your Majesty, what are you doing? We're trying to help you and our god race. The three god race emperors of Tianhuang mainland were agitated and wanted to resist. The expression of the old man from the god race with the sword of misfortune darkened as he said coldly, how dare you go against the will of the god emperor? Do you have a death wish? The moment he said that, the three god race emperors of Tianhuang mainland were scared out of their wits. Clang, clang. The storage rings on the fingers of the old man from the god race flashed and he withdrew a gigantic chain that shone with a golden light. Both ends of the chain were sharp hooks. Once it pierced flesh, it would be locked tightly. The three god race emperors of Tianhuang mainland were scared out of their wits and shivered, but they did not dare to resist. They could only let the old man of the god race wrap the chain around them tightly. The hooks at the end of the chain pierced their flesh and fresh blood flowed. The three emperors trembled in pain but they could only grit their teeth and remain silent. The storyteller, Long Ran and the others were puzzled, not understanding what the god emperor was plotting. Su Zimo frowned slightly in deep thought. Some god race patriarchs sped over from the borders of the north region. When they arrived and saw that, they were stunned on the spot with bewildered expressions. Your Majesty, what about them? The old lady from the god race with the staff of dawn bowed slightly and asked softly. Tie these patriarchs up as well. The god emperor said indifferently, all god race beings beneath the level of patriarchs are to be locked in the god race prison. No one shall be spared. Understood. The god race army agreed readily. The next moment, the god race army charged forward and the patriarchs of Tianhuang mainland were locked by chains, unable to move at all. When the god race army arrived at the border of the north region, they did not attack any living beings of Tianhuang mainland or injure anyone by mistake. On the contrary, they captured all the god race beings of Tianhuang mainland, regardless of their cultivation realms, and locked them in a gigantic cage. Chapter 1733 Young Master, it's me. Chapter 1733 Young Master, it's me. Before long, the god race beings of Tianhuang mainland were imprisoned by God's mainland. The living beings of Tianhuang mainland were puzzled. Mystic Emperor, what's going on? Long Ran frowned and asked, are the people of God's mainland crazy? Or are they plotting something? A mist appeared in the storyteller's eyes as he extended his finger and divined rapidly. However, there was still no result after a while. The storyteller shook his head. That God Emperor is shrouded by a layer of obscure divine light that seems to originate from that crown and throne. I can't divine anything at all. Pausing for a moment, he continued, however, there doesn't seem to be much hostility from God's mainland. Su Zimo looked at the God Emperor on the throne thoughtfully. He had a guess in his heart, but it was way too bold that he could not confirm it. Before long, the God Emperor arrived not far away from Su Zimo under the protection of many God race beings. The God Emperor stood up slowly from his throne. Su Zimo's gaze shifted. The God Emperor had shoulder-length golden hair and was tall with a voluptuous figure. He wore a white robe that was divine and elegant, revealing his perfect figure. It was a woman. Unfortunately, she was not the person Su Zimo had guessed. More than 1,000 years ago, when Yan Qi found out about the truth of the primordial war in the Kunlun ruins, she felt guilty and did not know how to face Su Zimo or Night Spirit. As such, she leaped into the Rainbow Cave and headed to God's mainland. There had been no news of her all these years. When Su Zimo saw that God's mainland did not seem to have much hostility towards Tianhuang mainland, a bold thought even flashed through his mind. The God Empress of God's mainland might be Yan Qi. However, Su Zimo shook his head the moment he saw the God Empress stand up. Although her appearance could not be seen, he knew Yan Qi too well after she had followed him for so long. Yan Qi possessed the bloodline of the God race and had always looked like a young girl. Even after more than 1,000 years, she would not have changed so much. It was not only the change in her figure, even her aura was vastly different. Yan Qi was usually very obedient by Su Zimo's side. However, the God Empress before him had a powerful aura. Although she had a devilish figure, she seemed incomparably divine and could not be ignored. The God Empress stood up and looked at Su Zimo in silence. Su Zimo frowned slightly in confusion. A moment later, the God Empress left her throne and walked slowly towards Su Zimo. The 4 emperors of the God race followed closely and many God race beings opened up a path. The 2 of them were less than 10 feet apart. The God Empress raised her hand and said softly, "You guys can stay here." The 4 God race emperors exchanged glances and stopped in their tracks. Su Zimo's ears twitched. The voice was familiar but also foreign. The God Empress walked towards Su Zimo alone. Su Zimo could not sense any hostility from the God Empress. Even so, he did not dare to lower his guard. At that moment, Su Zimo was not the only one. In Tianhuang mainland, even some experts who were fighting at the intersection of the North region stopped and looked over. The living beings of the 10,000 races were filled with countless questions. Everyone was curious what would happen when the Martial Emperor and the God Empress, 2 peak experts of their respective mainlands, met for the first time. Before long, the God Empress arrived before Su Zimo. The 2 of them were less than an arm apart. For emperors, that distance was extremely close and dangerous. However, Su Zimo did not retreat and merely looked at the approaching God Empress quietly with an inquiring and confused gaze. The 2 emperors stood opposite one another. Immediately after, in front of everyone, the God Empress bowed down to the Martial Emperor. Ah! An uproar broke out all over Tianhuang mainland. The living beings of the 10,000 races widened their eyes and their jaws almost dropped to the ground. God Empress! God Empress, you can't! The 4 God race emperors of God's mainland exclaimed emotionally. Yan Qi! Su Zimo looked at the God Empress who was bowing in front of him and tried his best to suppress the excitement in his heart as he asked softly. "Young master, it's me." The God Empress raised her head and her spirit consciousness moved. The power of the crown dissipated, revealing an almost perfect face that stunned the world. Su Zimo was stunned on the spot. Although her appearance was somewhat different, there were still distinct traces of Yan Qi in the past. Yan Qi had grown up. The only thing that did not change was her eyes that were as blue as the sea. Her eyes were filled with endless longing, dependence, excitement and tenderness. A realization flashed through Su Zimo's mind. It was no wonder why he found that voice familiar and foreign. That was because after Yan Qi grew up, she underwent a voice change that caused such a change. That girl? When the storyteller saw Yan Qi, he was slightly lost but reacted quickly. In a daze, he fell into a distant memory and lamented. A long time ago, when he first met Su Zimo in the capital of Great Zhou in the North region, there was a girl as such following him. At that time he could tell that there was some bloodline of the god race in this girl's body. However, it was extremely obscure. He did not think too much about it. She was merely a remnant of the god race. All these years, Nian Qi had been by Su Zimo's side. Although her cultivation had not fallen behind, she had not revealed any sharpness either. However, who would have thought that the girl from back then would have already become the god empress of God's mainland? Nian Qi, it's really you. Su Zimo smiled happily. In his excitement, he hurried forward and held Nian Qi's shoulders, helping her up. How dare you? The old man from the god race wielding the sword of misfortune widened his eyes and took a step forward. Blowing his beard, he glared at Su Zimo and shouted with a furious expression, "The body of the god empress is divine and flawless. How can you touch it casually? Back down. Don't be rude." Nian Qi glanced sideways and frowned slightly, hollering softly. The old man from the god race was a little indignant, but he did not dare to resist and could only retreat angrily. Nian Qi, how did you? Su Zimo had countless questions in his mind as well. It's a long story. Nian Qi smiled with an imperceptible hint of bitterness in her eyes. Suddenly Su Zimo felt a sense of pity and heartache. He did not continue asking. However, he could imagine that Nian Qi had definitely experienced countless grievances, difficulties and dangers alone in God's mainland. As a remnant of the god race with an impure bloodline, Nian Qi managed to ascend to the position of the god empress step by step. What sort of suffering did she have to endure in between? Up till this point of his cultivation, Su Zimo still had the gifts left behind by Dai Yu as well as Ethereal Peak, Patriarch Yuan Bei, the red-headed ghost, Extreme Fire, Lin Xuanji and other sect mates by his side. In God's mainland, Nian Qi was alone and had no one to rely on. Chapter 1734 Redemption. Chapter 1734 Redemption. Su Zimo had never believed in any innate bloodline. Although the primordial 9 races were born with powerful bloodlines, their future accomplishments might not be above the human race. He, Su Zimo, was the most ordinary mortal and did not even have a spirit root. Right now, he had reached the peak of Tianhuang mainland and was conferred the title of the Martial Emperor, respected by all races. 40,000 years ago, Tao Lord Blood Fiend and Monk Daming were only abandoned descendants of the primordial races. Their final achievements were even stronger than the primordial races with pure bloodlines. It was the same for Nian Qi. Su Zimo believed that Nian Qi must have experienced countless things in God's mainland in the past 1,000 years. In fact, it might even be more exciting than when he was in Tianhuang mainland. Those experiences were the reason why she was the current God Empress. Nian Qi, why are you here at this time? Su Zimo asked again. Nian Qi smiled gently. In the civilization of God's mainland, there's a divination technique similar to some divination techniques of Enigma Palace that can predict things. In my divination there's a huge change in Tianhuang mainland. I'm guessing that there's a high chance that a huge battle broke out between the primordial races and the human race. That's why I brought my clansmen here to help you suppress the primordial races. With that said, Nian Qi suddenly declared, all God race beings listen up. Join forces with the human cultivators of Tianhuang mainland to suppress the Witch, Blood Vine, Heavenly Eye, Rakshasa and Golden Crow races. Understood. Many God race riders agreed in unison. The God race army was activated and their iron hooves rumbled as they charged towards the battlefield at the intersection of the North region. The only ones left standing behind Nian Qi were the 4 God race emperors with the divine judgment weapons. The 4 God race emperors looked at Su Zimo with wary and hostile gazes. They had no feelings for Su Zimo. All they knew was that it was truly inappropriate for Nian Qi to bow to the martial emperor despite being the God Empress of God's mainland. No matter what, the status of the God Empress should be equivalent to the martial emperor at the very least. However, at that moment, when Nian Qi returned to Su Zimo's side, the aura of the God Empress had long vanished, as though she had returned to the past. From her tone, brows and every single move she made, it was clear how much Nian Qi relied on Su Zimo. The 4 emperors of the God race frowned. Su Zimo turned around as well and looked at the North region battlefield. His voice was cold as he said slowly, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor, Shadowless Emperor, Thousand Eye Emperor and Blood Emperor have been executed. Living beings of the 5 primordial races and 8 demon regions, listen up. We won't kill anyone who surrenders. If you insist on resisting, we'll kill you without mercy. Su Zimo had no intention of killing them all. On the one hand, both parties suffered immense losses in this battle. If they continued fighting, it would be a disaster for the 10,000 races of Tianhuang mainland. On the other hand, he was worried about another huge latent danger. In the North region battlefield, the primordial 5 races showed signs of defeat after the emperors of the primordial 5 races died one after another. Right now, the God race army had joined the battlefield. When Su Zimo said that, the allied army of the primordial 5 races collapsed instantly. The living beings of the 8 demon regions lowered their heads. The experts of the primordial races had already given up on resisting and either submitted or fled for their lives. The emperors of the human race finally heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that. After this battle, the primordial 5 races would be completely silent and it would be difficult for them to do anything throughout history. In midair, Nian Qi lowered her head slightly and said softly, "Young master, I'm sorry." "Why?" Su Zimo was puzzled and asked instinctively. Nian Qi pointed to the many God race beings imprisoned behind her. "They're from the God race after all. As the God Empress, it's not easy for me to kill them all just like that." "That's nothing." Su Zimo shook his head. Even if the human race won this battle, he had no intention of killing them all. By suppressing 3 God race emperors of Tianhuang mainland without hesitation earlier on, Nian Qi had already been accountable to the living beings of the 10,000 races who died in this battle. "Young master, there's somewhere else I want to go." After a moment of silence, Nian Qi suddenly said, "Let's go. I'll accompany you." Although Nian Qi did not say it explicitly, Su Zimo had already guessed it. The 2 of them sped towards the west with the 4 emperors of the God race following closely behind. Before long, the 6 of them arrived above the Kunlun ruins. The 4 God race emperors summoned their divine judgment weapons and circulated their blood qi, channeling the power of their weapons to carve out a spacious passage in the Kunlun ruins. A divine power storm would not be formed in this passage. The 6 of them advanced and arrived at the God-slaying valley before long. On both sides of the God-slaying valley stood 2 tall, ferocious corpses with torrential auras. Even after dying for countless years, the 2 corpses still emitted a shuddering aura and rumbling might. The 2 divine house of the primordial era. Arriving at the God-slaying valley, Nian Qi knelt down before the 2 divine house. "God Empress, why are you?" When the old man from the God race saw that, he hurried forward, wanting to help Nian Qi up. However, Nian Qi glared at him. Those blue eyes were filled with tenderness when they looked at Su Zimo earlier on. However, at that moment, Nian Qi's eyes were filled with killing intent and authority. The old man's heart skipped a beat and he shuddered, remaining silent. Nian Qi said softly, "Seniors, the God race committed a huge mistake back then and caused you 2 to die here, suffering eternal grievances. Today the descendants of the God race have arrived. Please forgive us, seniors." With that said, Nian Qi knelt and kowtowed to the 2 divine house. Again and again. Each time she kowtowed, Nian Qi's eyes were filled with endless guilt. "Nian Qi, get up." Su Zimo could not bear it and said softly, "This is a crime committed by the ancestors of the God race in the past. It has nothing to do with you. You shouldn't have to endure this." Nian Qi did not reply and continued kowtowing. Unknowingly, Night Spirit had arrived beside Su Zimo. Back then, after knowing the truth of the primordial war, although Night Spirit had never said it, there was indeed an unresolvable knot in his heart towards Nian Qi. Nian Qi could sense it. That was the reason why she left Tianhuang mainland and Su Zimo without hesitation to head to God's mainland alone. Apart from wanting to help Su Zimo, another important reason for Nian Qi's return was to atone for the God race's sins. Before long, Nian Qi's forehead bled. A long time later, she raised her head and looked at the corpses of the 2 divine house, saying in a deep voice, "I swear in the name of the God Empress that as long as I'm alive, none of our clansmen on God's mainland shall ever invade Tianhuang mainland. If this vow is broken, I shall be smitten by the heavens." Boom, boom, boom. The moment she said that, the corpses of the divine house on both sides of the God-slaying valley shattered and began to collapse, turning into countless spots of light that scattered in midair. The spots of light gradually formed 2 taboo divine house. The 2 divine house looked at Night Spirit deeply and growled at Nian Qi before turning to leave with one another, disappearing before everyone. Night Spirit knelt down silently with tears in his eyes. Su Zimo sighed with a sorrowful expression. The two divine house of the primordial era were concerned about Tianhuang mainland. Even though they died, they carried endless obsessions, and that was the reason why their corpses were standing here with their backs facing Tianhuang mainland. Nian Qi's vow made the two divine house finally let go of their obsession and leave this world completely. Nian Qi received forgiveness. The god race received redemption. The divine house received liberation. At that moment, the feud of the primordial era finally became the past and was fully resolved. Chapter 1735, Arrival of the Black Witch. Chapter 1735, Arrival of the Black Witch. The battle triggered by the primordial 5 races was almost over. The living beings of the 8 demon regions lowered their heads. Countless experts of the primordial 5 races were injured or dead as well and were completely defeated. Of the 5 top emperors of the primordial races, the Hell Witch Emperor was the only one who escaped back to the Witch race's ancestral ground. The Dragon Phoenix true body chased all the way, prepared to kill this latent danger completely. The Witch race's ancestral ground was sinister everywhere, and many of the buildings were made of white bones and corpses. It was extremely terrifying. Around the Witch race's ancestral ground was a dark green river that was extremely sticky and bubbled. From time to time, a skull would float up from the green river and stare at the Dragon Phoenix true body in midair with its pitch-black eyes, as though it was sentient. After the Dragon Phoenix true body descended, he had already sensed that there was some sort of curse power in the Witch race's ancestral ground that restricted the essence spirit immensely. Even his spirit consciousness could not envelop the entire Witch race's ancestral ground and could not scan the territory in full. The Dragon Phoenix true body sensed and murmured, "There's actually an array formation here. To think that there would be experts in the Witch race who are proficient in array formations." He pondered for a moment and sensed the flaw of the formation. Refine. The Dragon Phoenix true body's gaze intensified, and he suddenly opened his mouth, spewing out a stream of scarlet lava that poured towards the dark green river around the ancestral ground. Splash! Splash! The scorching lava fused with the sticky green river and let out a series of strange sounds as green smoke billowed. Although the Dragon Phoenix flame had not reached the realm of a supreme divine power, as the innate flame of a taboo, its power was unusually terrifying. A series of tragic cries even sounded from the green river. The next moment, ghastly figures appeared one after another above the green river. They floated and were dense, countless. The river had devoured the souls of countless living beings. The source of power for the formation of the Witch race was this green river. After the Witch race killed the living beings of the 10,000 races, they would use a secret skill to capture their souls and throw them into the river. They would fall into eternal damnation, never to be reincarnated. The flames of the Dragon Phoenix true body finally freed the souls. The Dragon Phoenix true body had a cold expression, and the flames he spat out intensified, enveloping the entire green river before long. Raging flames burned on the river. Before long, the power of the curse in the green river was burned to ashes by the Dragon Phoenix true body. The formation of the Witch race's ancestral ground was dispelled as well. Without any restrictions, the spirit consciousness of the Dragon Phoenix true body was released and enveloped the entire ancestral ground of the Witch race instantly. The Dragon Phoenix true body frowned slightly. The massive ancestral ground of the Witch race was extremely empty. Even under the envelopment of his spirit consciousness, he could not see anyone from the Witch race. However, in the depths of the Witch race's ancestral ground, there was a valley that even the spirit consciousness of the Dragon Phoenix true body could not probe. Without hesitation, the Dragon Phoenix true body flapped his wings and sped towards the valley. Before long, the Dragon Phoenix true body descended in the valley. True enough. All the witches were gathered in the valley, and there were at least 100,000 of them. Of course, those witches had different cultivation realms as well. Looking down from midair, one could clearly see that the ground of the valley was filled with gigantic ravines. The ravines were formed from white bones and formed rings. Hundreds of thousands of witches stood on the ravine rings. Within the rings, there were an additional 8 ravines that bypassed them, cutting through to the center of the valley. It was a sacrificial platform of white bones. A person stood on the sacrificial platform. It was the Hell Witch Emperor who had escaped from the Dragon Bone Valley. Apart from the Hell Witch Emperor, there were 4 emperors of the witch race standing around the white bones sacrificial platform. However, the 4 emperors of the witch race were old. The Hell Witch Emperor stood in the middle of the white bones sacrificial platform and waved his bone staff. With the 4 emperors of the witch race assisting him, he was executing some secret skill of the witch race. The dragon phoenix true body's gaze froze and his heart skipped a beat. Hundreds of thousands of witches had already cut their wrists with the bloodline of the witch race flowing through them. The bloodline of the witch race flowed slowly along the 8 ravines to the white bones sacrificial platform. The Hell Witch Emperor chanted an obscure incantation. Under the guidance of his bone staff, the bloodlines of the witch race formed a dark green blood ball above the valley. The dark green blood ball surged continuously and sinister runes were formed on its surface, emitting an extremely terrifying energy fluctuation. The dragon phoenix true body had never seen such methods before. However, he realized that he could not let the Hell Witch Emperor release that secret skill. Swoosh! The dragon phoenix true body flashed and charged towards the Hell Witch Emperor in the middle of the white bones sacrificial platform at a shocking speed. Rise! It was clear that the Hell Witch Emperor had seen the dragon phoenix true body as well. However, he did not panic at all. Instead, a mocking look flashed through his eyes as he hollered softly. Buzz! The circles of white bones around the white bones sacrificial platform suddenly burst forth with dark green light that landed on the dragon phoenix true body. Boom! There was a loud bang. The dragon phoenix true body was sent flying by the beams of light and his scales rotted and fell off. The power released by the sacrificial platform was extremely strong and the dragon phoenix true body's organs were shaken violently from the collision. Hee. The Hell Witch Emperor laughed with a deranged expression. Desolate Marshal, that doesn't feel good, right? The worst is yet to come. It's too late for you to stop me. You and every single living being of Tianhuang mainland, prepare to be enslaved by the witch race. The Hell Witch Emperor had a menacing expression and laughed wildly. In the end he was already hysterical. As the Hell Witch Emperor spoke, the dark green ball of light in midair intensified and the runes on it shone brighter. Black Witch, please descend upon Tianhuang mainland and subdue the 10,000 races. The Hell Witch Emperor raised his head and glared at the dark green ball of light in midair, roaring. Black Witch, please descend and subdue the 10,000 races. More than 10 witches shouted at the same time. Sacrifice! The Hell Witch Emperor hollered. Immediately after, his body exploded into a blood mist that was devoured by the dark green ball of light in midair. The dragon phoenix true body had a grim expression. The Hell Witch Emperor was dead. In order to release the secret skill of the witch race, the Hell Witch Emperor even sacrificed his life. Who was the Black Witch that the Hell Witch Emperor was referring to? Could it be? The dragon phoenix true body suddenly thought of a terrifying possibility and looked up instinctively. Boom! In midair, the dark green ball of light suddenly exploded and a terrifying power swept through the entire firmaments. Even the clouds were dyed dark green. The power smashed towards a crack in the firmaments that shone with a blinding light. That was the crack left behind by the human emperor's descent 1,000 years ago. Chapter 1736, Annihilation. Chapter 1736, Annihilation. 1,000 years ago, the storyteller used a secret skill to bring the eternal human emperor down and nearly exhausted his lifespan. Right now, this secret skill was clearly similar to the storyteller's secret skill. Furthermore, the secret skill of the witch race was even more intense. Not only was the life of a top emperor like the Hell Witch Emperor sacrificed, it was activated with the bloodlines of 4 witch race emperors and hundreds of thousands of witches. An expert of the witch race from the upper world was about to descend upon Tianhuang mainland. However, Su Zimo had no way of stopping everything. This is bad. When the storyteller saw that, his heart skipped a beat. Long Ran had a grim expression as well. I wonder how strong will the expert of the upper world summoned by the witch race be? However, no matter what, any expert that descends from the upper world will have to pay a heavy price. Not necessarily. The storyteller sighed with a worried expression. As the palace guardian of the human emperor's palace, he naturally knew that the current Tianhuang mainland had imperfections in heaven and earth with chaotic laws. After 1,000 years, the laws of this world might not even affect the experts of the upper world. If that was the case, the consequences would be unimaginable. The living beings of the 10,000 races of Tianhuang mainland were probably doomed. Back then, the eternal human emperor's cultivation realm fell continuously and he was severely injured, leaving only his essence spirit. With the help of Su Zimo's green lotus true body, he could even kill top emperors such as the heavenly god emperor. If an expert of the witch race could descend from the upper world without any changes to his cultivation realm, nobody would be able to defend against his attacks. Boom. Boom. A loud bang sounded from the skies. Suddenly, a dark green beam of light descended from the crack in the firmaments and smashed heavily onto the ground of the middle continent. The ground shook and the mountains trembled. Countless living beings turned into ashes on the spot against the dark green beam of light. Immediately after, right in front of the living beings of the 10,000 races, 7 figures descended slowly. The 7 figures wore strange clothes. Unlike the witches of Tianhuang mainland, they looked even older. However, the 7 figures also had a pair of dark green eyes that looked extremely strange, like the eyes of a fiend. What was even more terrifying was that when the 7 figures descended with a tremendous might, the living beings of the 10,000 races felt a sense of danger. Even the emperors of Tianhuang mainland could not muster any resistance against that might, let alone ordinary cultivators. The dragon phoenix true body had a grim expression as he looked at the 7 figures. Are they the experts of the upper world? Which one is the Black Witch? Or is the Black Witch not referring to a single person but something else? The 7 experts of the witch race of the upper world descended slowly and the void around each of them collapsed continuously. This world could not withstand the power of the 7 witch race experts. What was even more terrifying was that the 7 witches from the upper world were not affected or impacted by any laws after arriving in Tianhuang mainland. What the eternal human emperor was worried about back then had finally happened. Heaven and earth had imperfections and the laws were incomplete. The Hell Witch Emperor summoned his secret skill and summoned experts of the witch race of the upper world who could descend without any drop in their cultivation realms. Among the 7 experts of the witch race of the upper world, an old man from the witch race murmured slowly, "We're here. This mainland is a minor kiliacosm." Haha, the living beings in this minor kiliacosm are so weak. Another slightly younger witch grinned excitedly and released his spirit consciousness to patrol Tianhuang mainland brazenly. "Elder Feng, is what you said true?" Another witch woman asked, "Are there truly rare treasures in this minor kiliacosm?" "That's for sure." The old man from the witch race of the upper world nodded. "Although this minor kiliacosm is weak, it's still a world of its own. It's not impossible for treasures to exist here." The few witches from the upper world spoke casually without concealing their voices and intentions. They did not take the 10,000 races of Tianhuang mainland seriously at all. Or rather, in the eyes of the 7 witches of the upper world, all the living beings of Tianhuang mainland were ants. Even emperors were merely slightly stronger ants. Su Zimo was secretly alarmed. Elder Feng was not wrong. At the very least, the creation green lotus was a treasure from the upper world. The heaven-slaying sword art and earth-slaying sword art seemed to be from the upper world as well. That was only what Su Zimo knew. There might be more that he did not know. Elder Feng continued, "If any treasures appear in the upper world, countless experts will definitely fight for them and cause a bloodbath. However, as long as we can descend in this lower world, we can take away all the treasures. There's no power in the lower world that can threaten us." "But what treasures can there be in this lower world?" Another young witch asked. "The spirit chi in this minor kiliacosm is thin and is way too different from the heaven and earth essence chi in the upper world." "Hee hee." Elder Feng laughed. "Of course, there's no way a true treasure can be born in this lower world. However, there's a high chance for treasures of the upper world to fall into a lower world. Legend has it that the only creation green lotus in the world was lost in a lower world. Whoever obtains that creation green lotus and nurtures it to grade 12 will definitely soar. Even a lotus seed of the creation green lotus can increase one's lifespan countless times after being refined into a medicine." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. "There's no hurry. The heaven and earth laws here are incomplete. We can still stay for a few more days." Elder Feng added. 1,000 years ago, the eternal human emperor descended and returned to the upper world not long after due to the restrictions of the laws. But now that the 7 witches had arrived in Tianhuang mainland, not only did their cultivation realms not decrease, they could even stay for a few days. Did something happen to the witch race such that they had to alarm us? Elder Feng's gaze shifted to the ancestral ground of the witch race as he said slowly. Although his voice was neither loud nor soft, it was filled with authority and spread to every corner of Tianhuang mainland. The 4 emperors of the witch race rushed over hurriedly and knelt down. With respectful expressions they said in a deep voice, "The witch race is in danger of being annihilated. Black witches, please kill our great enemy." Oh. Elder Feng raised his brow slightly. Even in the upper world, our witch race is considered as a powerful race. To think that we would be at risk of being annihilated in this minor kiliacosm? What sort of a great enemy would dare to try and annihilate the witch race? Suddenly, Elder Feng's voice turned deep and cold with a chilling intent. "It's a taboo dragon phoenix." An emperor of the witch race turned around hurriedly and pointed at the dragon phoenix true body above the witch race's ancestral ground, shouting, "That's him." Oh. A dark glint flashed through Elder Feng's eyes as he said in surprise, "To think that such a demon beast would be born in this minor kiliacosm. How rare." Apart from the dragon phoenix, there's also a taboo divine Ho. Another Hell Witch Emperor continued, "By the way, the creation green lotus you mentioned earlier on is one of the dragon phoenix's true bodies." MMM? At the mention of the creation green lotus, the eyes of Elder Feng and the other 3 witches shone brightly. Chapter 1737, Only Way Out. Chapter 1737, Only Way Out. Creation Green Lotus. Elder Feng extended his palm and grabbed the witch elder through the void, asking sternly, "Were you talking about the creation green lotus?" Why yes. The voice of the emperor of the witch race trembled. He was completely helpless against Elder Feng's palm. "Where's the creation green lotus?" Elder Feng tried his best to suppress his emotions and asked in a deep voice, "What's up with the true body you mentioned earlier on? Hurry and tell me the truth." The Dragon Phoenix's Dao title is Desolate Martial and he's the Martial Emperor of Tianhuang mainland. He's almost the strongest person. The Martial Emperor has another true body. I heard that by some freak coincidence, he fused with the creation Green Lotus and became the Green Lotus true body. The Emperor of the Witch race said hurriedly. Cloning technique. Another witch of the upper world frowned slightly. He fused his flesh with the creation Green Lotus to create a humanoid creation Green Lotus. The Emperor of the Witch race nodded repeatedly. That's right. Furthermore, the Green Lotus true body of the Martial Emperor has already grown to the peak of grade 8 and is extremely strong. His body can take on dermic treasures. Peak grade 8. Elder Feng's eyes lit up when he heard that. Ha 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 ha. He could not help but burst into laughter. The wrinkles on his face were stacked together as he shouted, "The heavens are truly on my side. This is supreme fortune." Congratulations, Elder Feng. The 6 young witches at the side congratulated hurriedly with envy in their eyes. Who wouldn't be tempted by a treasure like the creation Green Lotus? Elder Feng said excitedly, "If I can obtain the creation Green Lotus, my lifespan will be extended and I'll definitely be able to advance through that most critical step." Congratulations. The 4 emperors of the witch race echoed hurriedly. Where's the humanoid creation Green Lotus? Elder Feng asked hurriedly. This? The 4 emperors of the witch race exchanged glances and shook their heads. They had been setting up sacrificial methods in the witch race's ancestral ground and did not know that the Green Lotus true body, Nian Qi and the others were in the Kunlun ruins. Standing together with Nian Qi and the other god race beings, Su Zimo did not circulate his blood qi and the experts of the witch race of the upper world naturally did not notice him. You guys don't know? Elder Feng frowned. That creation Green Lotus is a true body of the taboo dragon phoenix. As long as we capture him, we'll be able to know the location of the Green Lotus true body. An emperor of the witch race pointed at the dragon phoenix true body and said hurriedly. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The gazes of the 7 experts of the witch race from the upper world landed on the dragon phoenix true body. Although they were millions of kilometers apart, those gazes seemed to be able to penetrate countless voids and landed on him, piercing him with a dull pain. The dragon phoenix true body stood in midair and his blood qi surged. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the 7 experts of the witch race of the upper world without retreating. It was not that he did not want to retreat. It was because there was no way out. Hee hee. Elder Feng laughed and suddenly extended his palm, facing the dragon phoenix true body from 1,000,000 kilometers away. Suddenly, the space around the dragon phoenix true body collapsed and a gigantic dark green palm appeared in the void, gripping his body tightly. 6 Tusk Divine Strength. The Dragon Phoenix true body released a supreme divine power right away. 6 Jade-white divine elephant tusks protruded from his back slowly, and his body was filled with an extremely domineering power as his blood chi surged. The Dragon Phoenix true body had already channeled the power in his body to its limits. Even so, he could not break free from that dark green palm. His strength seemed so insignificant against that palm. It was like an ant trying to shake a tree. Right in front of the living beings of the 10,000 races, the taboo dragon phoenix that was almost at the peak of Tianhuang mainland was grabbed by a dark green hand and yanked towards Elder Feng. The difference was too great. It was worlds apart. Kunlun Ruins. Su Zimo's expression turned extremely terrible. That power was not something they could fight against. Back when the eternal human emperor descended, his cultivation realm fell and he was only left with a severely injured essence spirit. At that time, the emperors of the primordial races could still fight him. But now that the 7 witches of the upper world had descended and their cultivation realms were unchanged, the dragon phoenix true body was helpless against this unknown power of the upper world. This was an unsolvable trap. There was still no news from the martial Dao prime body. Even if the martial Dao prime body could sense something and came forth from seclusion, he had no chance of winning against that power. The difference was like a mortal facing an emperor of Tianhuang mainland. Night Spirit moved and wanted to tear through space to help the dragon phoenix true body. Don't go. Su Zimo stopped him hurriedly. Even if Night Spirit went over, he would only be sending himself to death. Your Majesty, let's hurry and leave. The old man from the god race whispered, it's too dangerous here. We can't linger. The other 3 god race emperors nodded as well. Thankfully, Nian Qi paid her respects to the divine host corpses and they arrived at the Kunlun ruins as well. They were extremely close to the Rainbow Cave and could reach the latter in the blink of an eye to escape from this place back to God's mainland. If they were still in the Middle Continent or North region, they might not even get the chance to leave. Young master, leave with me before they notice you. With a worried expression, Nian Qi sent a voice transmission to Su Zimo secretly, follow me to God's mainland. The laws of God's mainland are perfect and these witches of the upper world can't barge in either. Young master, that's our only way out. Su Zimo pursed his lips tightly and remained silent, merely looking at the dragon phoenix true body from afar. Nian Qi knew Su Zimo's intentions and continued, young master, I know that you can't bear it. However, the dragon phoenix true body has been captured and can no longer be saved. You can only abandon it. If you stay here, this green lotus true body will be captured by them sooner or later. At that time, both true bodies will fall into their hands. Young master, stop hesitating and follow me. Nian Qi urged anxiously. How could Su Zimo not know that his only way out was to head to God's mainland? However, the dragon phoenix true body was not merely a true body to him. That true body carried everything about Dayu. To him, it was a form of mental sustenance. Furthermore, the descent of the 7 upper world witches would definitely cause a catastrophe for the living beings of Tianhuang mainland. Countless humans would die in this catastrophe. The storyteller, Little Fatty, Lin Xuanji, Monkey and his other brothers, Ethereal Peak, the 9 immortal sects, 7 fiend sects, 6 Buddhist monasteries. All his old friends and everything else would probably turn into ashes and ruins. As the martial emperor and the human emperor of this generation, Su Zimo had once established the martial Dao and imparted martial arts to all living beings. How could he make such a choice to abandon everyone and leave alone? Nian Qi, leave first. I'll be there in a while. After a brief pause, Su Zimo continued, Night Spirit, leave this place with Nian Qi as well. Young master. Nian Qi called softly but did not leave. She could also guess that Su Zimo had no intention of leaving and that was the reason why he wanted her and Night Spirit to leave first. I'm not leaving. Night Spirit said slowly. The divine Ho race was born to protect Tianhuang mainland. Furthermore, his brothers were all here. Chapter 1738, Massacre of Emperors. Chapter 1738, Massacre of Emperors. Above the Dragon Bone Valley. The emperors of the human, dragon, Kuan and barbarian races watched helplessly as the dragon phoenix true body was captured by the witch race from the upper world. The taboo dragon phoenix comprehended 2 supreme divine powers and could even kill emperors of the human race who comprehended 6 supreme divine powers. However, in the hands of this expert of the upper world's witch race, the taboo dragon phoenix was helpless. Even if they swarmed forward, it would be useless. What should we do? Long Ran was anxious and turned to look at the storyteller, asking, "Can you think of a way to get the eternal human emperor to descend?" 1,000 years ago, the human emperor descended and was severely injured. All these years, even in the human emperor's palace, I did not manage to contact the human emperor. The storyteller shook his head and sighed. The witch race can summon experts of the upper world. Do the dragon, barbarian and Kuan races have any means of doing so? An emperor of the human race could not help but ask. The emperors of the primordial races shook their heads. Long Ran sighed as well. Among the primordial races, the witch race is probably the only one who possesses such a secret skill. Doesn't that mean that we can only watch helplessly as the taboo dragon phoenix dies? Monk Kong Yun had a pained expression. That's not all. The storyteller had a grim expression. The dragon phoenix isn't the only one. The other experts of our human race and the primordial races won't be able to escape death either. That's right. Long Ran nodded. Although we're emperors in the eyes of these experts of the upper world, we're like ants and our lives are worthless. Swoosh. Right then, an emperor of the Rakshasa race realized that the situation was bad as well. In a flash, he flapped his wings and sped towards the extreme west. Experts of other levels might have a chance of surviving. However, if the experts of the witch race of the upper world wanted the witch race to rule over Tianhuang mainland, they would have to kill all the emperors of the other races. The emperors of the other primordial races clearly realized this as well. After the Rakshasa emperor fled, the remaining emperors of the Golden Crow, Heavenly Eye and Bloodvine races fled one after another. The emperors also realized that the Rainbow Cave in the Kunlun ruins was their only shot at survival. Elder Feng pulled the dragon phoenix true body over from the void thousands of kilometers away. When he saw that, he smirked with a mocking expression and said indifferently, "Go on, let these ants of the lower world witness the power of the upper world." All right. The other 6 witches of the upper world were already eager and impatient. The 6 witches of the upper world moved one after another. A young witch's figure flashed at an astonishing speed. In just a few breaths, he caught up to the Rakshasa emperor who was the first to escape. The Rakshasa race was the fastest. As for the witch race, their physiques and bloodlines were ordinary and their movement techniques were extremely average as well. Even so, the young witch of the upper world caught up to the Rakshasa emperor in a few breaths. "Where are you going?" The young witch of the upper world smiled gently and suddenly opened his mouth, spitting out a dark green stream of air in the direction of the Rakshasa emperor. When the stream of air landed on the Rakshasa emperor, his figure froze in midair. Right in front of the living beings of the 10,000 races, the body of the Rakshasa emperor rotted rapidly with green bubbles. In the blink of an eye, he was corroded into a sticky green liquid that splattered down. Dead. An emperor of the Rakshasa race was killed by a single breath of air from the witch race of the upper world. The other emperors of the primordial races that were escaping were scared out of their wits when they saw that. When they cultivated to the emperor realm, they were already the strongest existences in Tianhuang mainland. They had never felt such fear. An emperor of the Heavenly Eye race was shocked and was about to continue escaping when a woman of the witch race appeared not far away. This woman was also from the upper world. The emperor of the Heavenly Eye race looked at the woman from the witch race of the upper world. The eyes of the witch race woman from the upper world shone with a strange dark green glow. Not good. The emperor of the Heavenly Eye race was alarmed. Without hesitation, he opened his Heavenly Eye and prepared to release the secret skill of the Heavenly Eye race. However, the moment his Heavenly Eye opened, his eyeball exploded. Ah! The emperor of the Heavenly Eye race shrieked. Before long, the tragic cries stopped. The emperor of the Heavenly Eye race's head was tilted and he fell from midair. There was no longer any life in his body. Dead. In fact, even till his death he did not know how he died. In the eyes of others, the emperor of the Heavenly Eye race died after exchanging a single glance with the witch race woman from the upper world. Was that the power of the upper world? The storyteller and the others widened their eyes in shock. That power had completely surpassed their understanding. Before an emperor of the Bloodvine race could escape far, a green spark appeared on his body almost imperceptibly. However, the spark burned the Emperor of the Bloodvine race into ashes rapidly. The entire process took less than 3 breaths. The Emperor of the Bloodvine race was dead. Tisk, tsk, tsk. A sinister laughter sounded from the firmaments. It was a witch of the upper world who circled around an Emperor of the Golden Crow race in a flash. No matter which direction the Emperor of the Golden Crow race fled, the witch of the upper world would step in and stop him. Where are you trying to escape to? The witch of the upper world teased the Emperor of the Golden Crow race like a cat playing with a mouse and asked with a smile. You can't escape. Give up. The witch of the upper world laughed endlessly with a mocking expression. Kill? When the Emperor of the Golden Crow race saw that he could not escape, his blood surged and he forgot about life and death as he charged towards the witch of the upper world. The witch race of the upper world stood on the spot without dodging or using any methods. Right in front of everyone, an Emperor of the Golden Crow race collided heavily against the witch of the upper world. The third leg of the Golden Crow Emperor even grabbed the head of the witch of the upper world. The witch race had a weak physique and bloodline. Although the 3D Golden Crow's physique and bloodline were not as strong as the Dragon and God race, they were not to be underestimated. The third leg of the Golden Crow race was even sharper and tough, able to penetrate everything. Perhaps that might be enough for him to kill this witch of the upper world. The storyteller and the other emperors held their breaths. Tisk, tsk, tsk. The laughter of the witch of the upper world sounded as he said coldly, I've already said that you should give up. The Emperor of the Golden Crow race was shocked. His third leg landed on the head of the witch of the upper world and the sound of metal clashing could even be heard. His sharp claws could not even pierce the flesh and skin of the witch of the upper world. The difference was too great. A look of despair flashed through the eyes of the Golden Crow Emperor. I don't want to play with you anymore. Boring. The witch of the upper world muttered and extended his palm casually, slapping the Golden Crow Emperor. Poof. The Golden Crow Emperor was smashed into a blood mist without a corpse left and died. Chapter 1739, Divine Powers Fight. Chapter 1739, Divine Powers Fight. The greatest weakness of the witch race was their weak physique and ordinary bloodline. But now, the witch of the upper world killed an Emperor of the Golden Crow race with the methods they were the least skilled in. It was as simple as crushing an ant. This power. The storyteller's face was pale as he murmured, even the taboo dragon phoenix might not be able to withstand such a palm strike. To think that ascending to the upper world would bring about such a huge transformation. The emperors of the human race were shocked as well. In that short period of time, the dragon phoenix true body was already caught by Elder Feng. The dragon phoenix true body had a calm expression without any fluctuation or fear in his eyes. He had witnessed everything that happened earlier on. Furthermore, the dragon phoenix true body realized that even if he had a taboo bloodline and body, he would definitely not be able to defend against the power of the witch race of the upper world. However, he had no intention of surrendering. Even if he had to die, he had to drag a witch of the upper world with him. The other 6 witches were chasing after the other emperors of the primordial races and had yet to return to Elder Feng's side. This was the best opportunity. Tisk, tsk, tsk. Elder Feng sized up the dragon phoenix true body brazenly. The dragon phoenix true body was gigantic and was covered in scarlet scales that burned with raging flames. Even in front of Elder Feng, his aura did not diminish. Seems like you're still unconvinced. Elder Feng smiled gently. Keep your appearance in front of me. The moment he said that, the dark green hand that grabbed the dragon phoenix true body suddenly tightened and released an extremely terrifying power. The dragon phoenix true body grunted. Buzz, buzz. Green smoke billowed. The dragon phoenix flames on his body were extinguished instantly. The 2 pairs of wings on his back were crushed by the gigantic palm and fresh blood flowed. Under the pressure of the dark green hand, the dragon phoenix true body shrank continuously and returned to his human form before long. Speak. Elder Feng looked at the dragon phoenix true body and asked indifferently, where's your green lotus true body? I can tell you, but can you let this true body of mine go? The dragon phoenix true body suddenly said. The reason why he said that was to numb Elder Feng and make the latter lower his guard. No problem. A mocking look flashed through the depths of Elder Feng's eyes and he even released the dark green hand on the dragon phoenix true body. Speak. Elder Feng smiled gently. Old dog die. An extremely cold killing intent burst forth from the calm eyes of the Dragon Phoenix true body. Reverse scale. The Dragon Phoenix true body released the Essence Spirit secret skill without hesitation. Of course, an Essence Spirit secret skill alone could not threaten experts of the upper world. The moment the reverse scale was summoned, the Dragon Phoenix true body channeled his Essence Spirit wildly and condensed a supreme divine power. The Dragon Phoenix true body extended his finger and pointed at Elder Feng from afar, shouting softly, "Fleeting moment." An extremely terrifying power enveloped Elder Feng without any traces or substance. Be it with the naked eye or spirit consciousness, no one could see the form of that power. This was the power of time. Time had no form to begin with. The Dragon Phoenix true body heard everything Elder Feng said clearly. Elder Feng had once said that if he could obtain the creation Green Lotus, his lifespan would increase. This meant that Elder Feng definitely did not have much lifespan left. The release of Fleeting Moment was definitely a destructive power for Elder Feng. When the Dragon Phoenix true body released his Essence Spirit secret skill, the reverse scale, Elder Feng still had a calm expression and the mockery in his eyes intensified. Elder Feng only frowned slightly when Fleeting Moment descended. He sensed it and frowned. It's the power of time. As expected of the Dragon Phoenix bloodline. To think that you can already comprehend the power of the time in the lower world. Furthermore, this seems to be a supreme divine power. At that moment, the Dragon Phoenix true body had a grim expression. Elder Feng was way too calm. Although Elder Feng was moved when he saw Fleeting Moment, he did not panic or fear at all, as though he did not take his supreme divine power seriously at all. Foo. Elder Feng laughed. Dragon Phoenix, although your bloodline is not bad, you're nothing but a frog in a well in the lower world. Today I'll let you witness what a true divine power is. Before his sentence was finished, Elder Feng chanted an incantation and an extremely pure and rich power burst forth from his body. That power was incomparably strong and fused with the incantation, releasing an extremely terrifying divine power. Elder Feng pointed forward and hollered softly, "Frost Curse." Frost Curse? The Dragon Phoenix true body was stunned when he heard that incantation. Above the Dragon Bone Valley, the emperors of the human race, the storyteller, Long Ran and the others were stunned and puzzled. The Frost Curse was the most ordinary lesser divine power of the witch race. Elder Feng had actually released a lesser divine power to defend against the supreme divine power, Fleeting Moment. Before the confusion in everyone's hearts dissipated, they saw an extremely shocking scene. The reverse scale that floated out from the glabella of the Dragon Phoenix true body was covered by a layer of frost before it even arrived before Elder Feng. Crack, crack, crack. In the blink of an eye, cracks appeared on the reverse scale. Bang. The next moment, the reverse scale shattered into nothingness. Crack, crack, crack. Immediately after, an even more intense sound came from around Elder Feng. Cracks appeared densely in the void around Elder Feng. Time was invisible. However, the Frost Curse froze the power of time in the void and it could not descend. This? Many emperors were stunned and dumbfounded. The Dragon Phoenix true body was shocked and confused as well. His supreme divine power was completely suppressed by Elder Feng's lesser divine power. How could this be? Although the Dragon Phoenix true body did not know about curses, Elder Feng's incantation of the Frost Curse was no different from the Frost Curse chanted by the emperors of the witch race in Tianhuang mainland. The only difference was that when Elder Feng condensed the lesser divine power, an extremely pure and rich power burst forth from his body. It was this power that fused with the Frost Curse that caused the lesser divine power to transform completely. In fact, it even froze Fleeting Moment into ice. Is this the power of the upper world? A look of disappointment flashed through the eyes of the Dragon Phoenix true body. Even after using all his trump cards, he could not injure Elder Feng at all. The difference was way too great. He had no chance of winning at all. Hee. Right then, the other 6 witches of the upper world returned one after another and sneered when they saw that. This ant from the lower world wants to go against us. He's a frog in the well without much knowledge. Elder Feng, in my opinion, we should just capture his essence spirit and use the soul-searching art. Why waste our breath on him? Chapter 1740 Hattered Light Ball. Chapter 1740, shattered light ball. Elder Feng looked at the dragon phoenix true body with a mocking expression. Little beast, let me tell you. Although the divine power you've comprehended is not bad, you can only unleash 1/10 of its power. The true power of divine powers comes from the upper world. Elder Feng said proudly, even if you ants from the lower world have comprehended supreme divine powers, you won't be able to withstand a single blow against us. The dragon phoenix true body remained silent. When fleeting moment and the reverse scale were dispelled by a single lesser divine power of the other party, he had already realized that the difference between them was not something that a few supreme divine powers could make up for. Even if he comprehended 3, 4 or even 10 supreme divine powers, it would be useless, let alone the 2 supreme divine powers he had comprehended right now. This was the insurmountable gap between the lower and upper worlds. That was the reason why the billion minor kiliacosms had heaven and earth laws to prevent experts of the upper world from descending. That was because once experts of the upper world descended, living beings of the lower world would not be able to stop them. At that time, the billion minor kiliacosms would only be filled with killing, bloodshed and enslavement. The power of an expert of the upper world could even destroy a minor kiliacosm. In a sense, the heaven and earth laws were not only meant to protect the living beings of the lower worlds, but also the billion minor kiliacosms themselves. Little beast, my patience is limited. Tell me the location of the green lotus true body. Don't force me to search your soul. Elder Feng said faintly. There was a high chance that the soul-searching art would fail. That was the reason why Elder Feng did not attack immediately. Otherwise, how could the dragon phoenix true body have lasted till now? Old dog. Suddenly, the dragon phoenix true body smiled with a mocking expression. I don't care if you destroy this true body of mine. However, remember that even if my dragon phoenix true body is destroyed, I won't die. When my other true body ascends to the upper world, I'll definitely look for you. I'll make you pay 100 times over. Little beast, how dare you threaten me? Elder Feng's expression darkened completely as he reached out with a cold gaze towards the head of the dragon phoenix true body. Get the hell out. He hollered and his palm descended with an extremely domineering power. Under that power, the dragon phoenix true body could not move at all. He could only watch helplessly as Elder Feng's palm landed on his head. Crack. The sound of bones cracking could be heard by the dragon phoenix true body. The next moment, immense pain surged into his mind. The dragon phoenix true body could no longer cry out. That was because Elder Feng had already crushed his head into pieces with his bare hands. Boiling blood splattered everywhere. Above the Dragon Bone Valley, the emperors of the human race, Long Ran and the others watched everything with blank expressions. Against that power, there was only despair in everyone's eyes. Even the human emperor's seal might not be able to shatter the body of a taboo dragon phoenix that had comprehended 2 supreme divine powers. But now, this old man from the witch race of the upper world crushed the head of the dragon phoenix true body with a single palm. It was an extremely violent and shocking scene. First, Monkey and the others stood at the borders of the north region with sorrowful expressions. A flawless white-robed woman sighed gently when she saw that. Kunlun ruins. Nian Qi turned her head away and could no longer bear to look. Night Spirit growled deeply and shuddered slightly. He glared coldly at the 7 figures standing proudly in the firmaments with a cold killing intent in his eyes. Nobody could stop the experts of the witch race from the upper world. Under Elder Feng's palm, the head of the dragon phoenix true body shattered, revealing the consciousness within. In his consciousness, the 11 demon kings roared furiously. However, they were shattered by the power in Elder Feng's palm. Against that immense power, the blazing ball of light surrounding the dragon phoenix essence spirit shattered as well. There was a scarlet flame in the ball of light. The dragon phoenix essence spirit looked at the ball of flames in a daze. The final ball of light finally shattered. He had looked forward to the scene of the ball of light shattering countless times. However, he had not expected this situation today. The ball of flames contained the final divine power. The ball of flames contained the final demon king as well. Comprehending that divine power meant that he had cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness to its perfected stage. However, it was useless. Even if he comprehended that divine power, he could not defend against the experts of the witch race of the upper world. The difference in strength between them was way too great. Furthermore, Elder Feng would not give him the chance to comprehend the final divine power. The Dragon Phoenix Essence Spirit felt its vision darken. Elder Feng's palm had already descended. When his Essence Spirit was captured, there was only a single outcome left. Regardless of whether the soul-searching art succeeded, he would die eventually. It's a pity that I couldn't cultivate the final divine power or perfect the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. The Dragon Phoenix true body sighed internally. However, before long, a ruthless and decisive look flashed through the eyes of the Dragon Phoenix Essence Spirit. Su Zimo had never feared death. Furthermore, even if the Dragon Phoenix true body was destroyed, he was not truly dead. However, he would not allow himself to be soul-searched by others. That was an insult to him. He would definitely not allow anyone to obtain information about the Green Lotus true body or anything about the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness from his memories. Old dog, if you want to search my soul, do it in your next life. The Dragon Phoenix Essence Spirit let out a final roar and an extremely terrifying power burst forth from it. He's going to self-destruct his Essence Spirit. Hurry and stop him. A few experts of the witch race from the upper world shouted when they sensed the fluctuation. Dark green power extended from Elder Feng's palm hurriedly and coiled towards the Dragon Phoenix Essence Spirit, wanting to stop it from self-destructing. However, it was too late. Boom. There was a loud bang. Right in front of the living beings of the 10,000 races, the Dragon Phoenix Essence Spirit exploded and dissipated on the spot, turning into nothingness. The self-destruction of his Essence Spirit created a massive spirit consciousness fluctuation that even caused cracks to appear in the surrounding void. The living beings of the 10,000 races were silent with sorrowful expressions. Nobody expected the Dragon Phoenix true body to choose such a decisive and tragic method to fight against the experts of the witch race of the upper world. His Essence Spirit self-destructed and his soul was shattered. It could not even reincarnate. Even if they knew that they were going to die, not many people would dare to self-destruct their Essence Spirits to destroy themselves. Damn it. Elder Feng was enraged. The fact that he did not obtain the location of the Green Lotus true body was secondary. More importantly, the resistance of the Dragon Phoenix true body made him feel provoked. He's just an ant of the lower world. Even if he has a taboo bloodline, he's only a little beast. How dare he go against my will? Elder Feng's expression was cold as his gigantic palm enveloped down. He grabbed the remnant body of the Dragon Phoenix true body and suddenly gripped it. The body of the Dragon Phoenix true body was crushed by Elder Feng's palm and turned into a blood mist without a corpse. Chapter 1741 Nirvana. Chapter 1741 Nirvana. Even if you self-destruct your Essence Spirit, I'll burn your body into ashes. Elder Feng said hatefully. After crushing the remnant body of the Dragon Phoenix true body, he swiped his hands and a blood mist filled the skies. The life force was destroyed and everything turned into dust. This was truly turning into ashes. Not a single drop of blood of the taboo Dragon Phoenix remained in this world. Kunlun ruins. Su Zimo watched everything quietly in silence. The destruction of a true body was nothing to him. His only regret was that he could not cultivate the final divine power and the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness to its perfected state. Young master, are you all right? Worried about Su Zimo, and Yen Qi asked softly. I'm fine. Su Zimo shook his head gently and murmured, unfortunately, I didn't manage to see what the final demon king was. In the final sight of the Dragon Phoenix true body, the ball of light shattered and only a ball of flames appeared. However, his Essence Spirit self-destructed before he even had the chance to see what demon king was within the ball of flames. Suddenly, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and his expression changed. What's wrong? Nianqi asked. Su Zimo frowned slightly with a strange expression. He merely shook his head and focused his gaze towards the place where the Dragon Phoenix true body died. Under normal circumstances, if the Dragon Phoenix true body's Essence Spirit self-destructed and his body was destroyed, he would definitely be dead. It was impossible for him to have any connection to the Dragon Phoenix true body. However, the strange thing was that when Su Zimo calmed down, he could still sense a trace of the Dragon Phoenix true body from afar. However, it was extremely faint and imperceptible. Could the Dragon Phoenix true body not be still alive? Even Su Zimo was shocked at the thought of that possibility. The living beings of the 10,000 races witnessed how the dragon phoenix essence spirit protected itself and its soul was shattered. Its body was crushed by Elder Feng. How could it still be alive? Just as Su Zimo's imagination was running wild, the connection between him and the dragon phoenix true body became increasingly obvious. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he looked into the distance. Above the firmaments, Elder Feng's expression darkened. Although he crushed the bones of the taboo dragon phoenix and turned it into ashes, it was still unable to appease the hatred in his heart. Is there any other way to obtain the location of the creation green lotus? Elder Feng turned to look at the 4 emperors of the witch race of Tianhuang mainland and asked coldly. An emperor of the witch race hurried forward and said, Senior Black Witch, Desolate Marshal has many good friends on this mainland. As long as we capture them, we'll definitely be able to find the location of the green lotus true body. The emperor of the witch race did not conceal his voice, and the storyteller, Long Ran, and the other cultivators heard him clearly. Damn it. Lin Xuanji's heart sank as he cursed. When the emperor of the witch race said that, it was clear that he wanted to slash the guillotine towards them. Where are they? Elder Feng asked. Indeed, the emperor of the witch race pointed to the Dragon Bone Valley rapidly and said in a deep voice, The emperors of the human race, the dragon, Kuan, and barbarian races over there are all good friends of Desolate Marshal. If we can't get anything out of them, there are also some people who are close to Desolate Marshal. Another emperor of the witch race pointed in the direction of the North region's border. Don't worry, Senior Black Witch. None of these people can escape. All right. Elder Feng nodded slowly and said expressionlessly, Let's ask these ants from the lower world first. I don't believe that we won't be able to find the creation green lotus. The 4 emperors of the witch race straightened their backs and looked at the storyteller and the other emperors above the Dragon Bone Valley. With proud expressions they declared, Mystic Emperor, this is karma. 8,000 years ago, when you summoned the eternal human emperor, did you think about this day? The storyteller was silent. He had no choice given the situation 1,000 years ago. If not for the descent of the human emperor, the human race would have been defeated and might not even have been able to survive till this day. However, if the eternal human emperor had not descended upon Tianhuang mainland and destroyed it, causing heaven and earth imperfections with incomplete laws, these experts of the witch race from the upper world would not have descended today either. Furthermore, the cultivation realms of the witch race of the upper world did not decrease, and they even possessed the power of the upper world. Capture those ants and interrogate them one by one. Elder Feng said indifferently. Understood. The other 6 witches of the upper world agreed and were about to attack. Suddenly, a strange fluctuation came from the void at the side. Elder Feng and the others turned to look. In the void not far away, a wisp of flame the size of a fingertip floated. It was scarlet and erratic, as though a gust of wind could extinguish it. A flame that could condense in the void without dissipating was definitely extraordinary. The aura of that flame seems familiar. Elder Feng frowned slightly in deep thought. It's that ball of light. Suddenly Elder Feng recalled something. When he crushed the body of the taboo dragon phoenix earlier on, he crushed a ball of light as well. A ball of flames floated in the ball of light and its aura was identical to the one before him. Interesting. Suddenly Elder Feng laughed. The body of the taboo dragon phoenix turned into ashes under my palm, but the flames did not extinguish. In that short period of time, the ball of flames grew larger. Initially, it was only the size of a fingertip. Before long, it turned into the size of a fist and burned furiously, turning into a gigantic fireball that resembled a blazing sun. The living beings of the 10,000 races widened their eyes in confusion. Divine powers? An upper world which suddenly said softly. There was a powerful divine power within the gigantic fireball. It's a supreme divine power. Elder Feng said slowly. The moment he said that, a tremendous life force burst forth from the fireball and blood chi surged, almost spewing out. Roar. A roar that sounded like a dragon and phoenix's cry echoed from the fireball and reverberated through the world, shocking the 10,000 races. That was the roar of the taboo dragon phoenix. Heavens! The taboo dragon phoenix isn't dead. How is that possible? His essence spirit was destroyed alongside his body. How is he not dead? Exclamations sounded from all over Tianhuang mainland. The 10,000 races were in an uproar. I got it. In the Kunlun ruins, Su Zimo murmured softly, seemingly enlightened. What's going on? Nian Qi could not help but ask in surprise and joy. Su Zimo said, after the fourth ball of light shattered, that final divine power was the Nirvana divine power. Legend has it that the undying divine phoenix had a powerful ability, Nirvana rebirth. However, in reality, every single Nirvana rebirth was extremely dangerous for the divine phoenix. That was because there was a 90% chance of failure and only 10% of success. Therefore, even the divine phoenix would not use its Nirvana technique unless it was absolutely necessary. Of course, if it could succeed in its Nirvana rebirth, the combat strength of the undying divine phoenix would increase immensely. In the final ball of light, the final demon king born from the flames was the undying divine phoenix. However, there was still no joy in Su Zimo's eyes. Even if he succeeded in his Nirvana and was reborn from the flames, the third supreme divine power comprehended by the dragon phoenix true body was still weak against Elder Feng. He would just die another time, that's all. Chapter 1742, Who are you calling a little beast? Chapter 1742, Who are you calling a little beast? It's the Nirvana divine power. Elder Feng narrowed his eyes when he sensed the energy fluctuation spreading from the flames. To think that this dragon phoenix truly has many trump cards, another witch of the upper world was surprised as well. Elder Feng smiled faintly. As a supreme divine power, the Nirvana divine power is powerful indeed. One can be reborn from the flames and it's equivalent to breaking the laws of life and death. However, the restrictions of the Nirvana divine power are extremely great and the chances of success are extremely low. Even the divine phoenix race of the upper world would not dare to use the Nirvana divine power casually. The witch woman at the side said, I heard that after a successful Nirvana rebirth through flames, one's combat strength will increase significantly. So? Elder Feng smiled. That little beast will merely undergo another baptism of divine powers. No matter how much his combat strength rises, he won't be able to cross the gap between us. That's right. Another witch of the upper world laughed as well. Now that the dragon phoenix has revived, Elder Feng can release the soul-searching art once more. This time round, it's impossible for him to self-destruct his essence spirit. Elder Feng said faintly. Raging flames surged in the void. The dragon phoenix true body was born from the flames and gradually regained consciousness. He also understood what happened to him. The power of the Nirvana divine power baptized his flesh and essence spirit continuously. The dragon phoenix true body could clearly sense his power rising rapidly. His body was bathed in flames and became even tougher and unshakable. His bloodline was purified by the Nirvana flames. His essence spirit became increasingly condensed as flames coiled around it like dozens of fire dragons. Standing in the flames, he seemed to be burned through from the inside out, emitting a scarlet glow that filled the skies. Back then, he was encircled by 3 emperors of the primordial races like the Hell Witch Emperor. This time round, even if there were 5 top emperors of the primordial races, the dragon phoenix true body would be able to kill them all. However, the dragon phoenix true body still had a grim expression as he looked at the 7 witches of the upper world not far away through the raging flames. That was because even if he comprehended the Nirvana divine power and his combat strength increased, this change was still not enough to deal with the experts of the witch race of the upper world. Su Zimo sighed internally. Actually, the moment the dragon phoenix true body was reborn and regained consciousness, he realized Dai Yu's good intentions. Although Dai Yu had left, she was still worried about him. In fact, she left him 3 gifts, although he still did not know what the 3rd gift was up till now. However, the first 2 gifts, the Soraka flower and divine phoenix bone, were way too helpful for his cultivation path. The reason why he was able to cultivate was because the Soraka flower had replaced the function of the spirit root. It was also because of the Soraka flower that he was able to be reborn as a golden core at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley. In fact, Dai Yu was worried that he would not be able to withstand the blow and even left a few words in the old temple at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley. As for the divine phoenix bone, it had saved his life countless times. In the end, he even made use of the bloodline of the divine phoenix bone to fuse with the bloodline of the dragon race, turning it into a taboo of the 10,000 races, the dragon phoenix. Finally, Dai Yu even left the Nirvana divine power for him to inherit. This was equivalent to giving him another life. What did it mean to alter one's fate? He was an example of one. With the help of the Nirvana divine power, Suzimo could be reborn from the flames and his combat strength would increase greatly. There was a high chance that he could kill his enemies instead. Under normal circumstances, that was indeed the case. Even if the Dragon Phoenix true body did not comprehend fleeting moment and was killed on the spot in the battle against the top emperors of the primordial races, he would have a chance to attempt Nirvana rebirth. At that time he would still be able to kill the Hell Witch Emperor and the others. Suzimo smiled bitterly. Dai Yu had predicted almost everything. However, she was not omniscient and omnipotent. Even Dai Yu would not have expected that Suzimo's opponent today was not from Tianhuang mainland, but from the upper world. It was a strong foe that Suzimo could not match at all. Above the firmaments, the Dragon Phoenix true body suddenly took a deep breath. The blazing flames around him transformed into streaks of fire that surged into his nose and mouth, fusing with his body and bloodline. The Dragon Phoenix true body had been reborn. This should have been an extremely exciting matter. However, be it the emperors of the human race or the living beings of the 10,000 races, all of them had grim expressions. Everywhere in Tianhuang mainland was shrouded by a layer of sadness and the atmosphere was tense. Anyone with eyes could tell that even if the Dragon Phoenix true body was reborn, nothing would change. He would just be killed mercilessly once more. You've revived, that's good. Elder Feng nodded with a smile and did not waste his breath on the Dragon Phoenix true body. He released his terrifying spirit consciousness and locked the latter's consciousness completely. This time round, the Dragon Phoenix essence spirit did not even have the chance to self-destruct. As he approached, Elder Feng reached out and grabbed the Dragon Phoenix true body. Before the palm descended, the void around the Dragon Phoenix true body had already collapsed. Suddenly, the blood chi in the Dragon Phoenix true body seemed to have sensed a tremendous stimulation and circulated on its own. It burst forth with the sound of a tsunami and his blood chi rose rapidly, reaching its limits. Rich blood chi spread and terrifying demon beasts with massive bodies were rapidly formed around the Dragon Phoenix true body. Wild Bovine Demon King, Stone Bear Demon King, Anaconda Demon King, Sanguine Ape Demon King, Divine Steed Demon King, Hell Tiger Demon King, Wind Leopard Demon King, Desolate Ocean Dragon King, Sea Calming Turtle, Golden Rock, Six-Tusked Divine Elephant, Undying Divine Phoenix. The 12 Demon Kings of the mystic classic of the 12 Demon Kings of the Great Wilderness appeared in a lifelike manner. Their gazes were frightening and they emitted an extremely terrifying aura. The bloodline phenomenon of the Dragon Phoenix true body. The scene of the 12 Demon Kings protecting the Dragon Phoenix true body in the middle was extremely shocking. However, the emperors of the human race could not bear it inside. To everyone, this was merely the final struggle of the Dragon Phoenix true body. The Dragon Phoenix true body looked at the 12 Demon Kings around him in a daze with a lost expression. He did not will the bloodline phenomenon this time round. Instead, it circulated on its own and appeared. Umph. Elder Feng hollered softly, the struggles of a cornered beast. Shatter. He merely exerted strength in his palm and the 12 Demon Kings were crushed, turning into scarlet demonic chi once more. Elder Feng's palm continued closing. The scarlet demonic chi was still surging and changing without dissipating. In the blink of an eye, all the demonic chi formed a butterfly in front of Suzimo. The butterfly was less than 10 feet tall and spread its blood-colored wings with 2 moons etched on them. It was like a pair of cold eyes that were staring at Elder Feng. Suddenly, Elder Feng felt uneasy and inexplicably frustrated. That feeling displeased him. Little beast, you haven't given up. Elder Feng's gaze was ruthless as he sneered, "Watch me cripple your phenomenon. Who are you calling a little beast?" Suddenly, a cold voice sounded in midair. It was a woman's voice, neither loud nor soft. Others were puzzled as to who the voice was. However, Suzimo was shocked when he heard that voice. He looked at the blood-colored butterfly in disbelief and his body trembled uncontrollably. Although many years had passed, he was extremely familiar with that voice. Chapter 1743 Third Gift. Chapter 1743, Third Gift. Who is speaking? It seems to be beside the taboo Dragon Phoenix. That butterfly? It spoke in human tongue? The emperors of the human race discussed softly in shock. The dragon phoenix true body looked at the blood-colored butterfly in front of him and his breathing turned heavier unconsciously. He merely tried his best to open his eyes without blinking. He was afraid that this was just a hallucination of his. He was afraid that the butterfly would vanish the moment he blinked his eyes. Prior to this, the blood butterfly had also condensed many times. However, this time round, the blood butterfly was clearly different. It seems like the blood butterfly is speaking? A witch of the upper world frowned slightly. A bloodline phenomenon is actually sentient. For some reason, Elder Feng felt increasingly frustrated and uneasy. His expression darkened as he said coldly, "No matter what it is, shatter it." A dark green light shone brightly in Elder Feng's eyes and an extremely powerful force burst forth from his palm, crushing towards the blood-colored butterfly. This time round, Elder Feng did not hold back and even enveloped the dragon phoenix true body. He did not want to search Su Zimo's soul anymore. He merely wanted to kill the uneasiness in his heart as soon as possible. The blood-colored butterfly seemed motionless. However, her wings trembled slightly. The vibration of that tremble was extremely small and could not be seen with the naked eye. It was also shockingly fast and in the eyes of others, it was almost motionless. However, after that slight tremble, a terrifying energy fluctuation burst forth from the void. The surrounding void collapsed instantly. Poof! Immediately after, blood spewed everywhere in the firmaments. Right in front of the living beings of the 10,000 races, Elder Feng's outstretched palm shattered into a blood mist. That was not all. That terrifying power was still spreading along Elder Feng's palm towards his arm rapidly. In the blink of an eye, half of Elder Feng's arm shattered into countless blood foam that splattered down. Ah! Elder Feng shrieked and retracted his palm hurriedly. His reaction was extremely fast as well as he swiped his storage bag with his other hand and summoned a white bone saber. Gritting his teeth, he slashed down on his arm. Elder Feng took advantage of the energy fluctuation and severed his arm before it could spread to his body. Blood gushed out like a fountain. A mere arm injury was nothing for Elder Feng. However, the pain seeped into his bones. Elder Feng took 2 steps back and channeled his essence spirit, causing his severed arm to regrow rapidly. However, his expression turned extremely terrible. Initially, he thought that no one and no power in the lower world could hurt him. To think that he would suffer such an impact. The 6 witches of the upper world at the side had just reacted as well. Nobody expected Elder Feng to be injured. An uproar broke out all over Tianhuang mainland. What's going on? Long Ran clenched his fists and said in a deep voice, "Could there be a way out?" "It's possible." The storyteller pondered deeply and said, "Desolate Marshal was originally a mortal without a spirit root. However, his fate was changed by an expert and he entered the cultivation world. Even I can't compare to the methods of this expert." Long Ran asked in surprise, "You mean the blood-colored butterfly? Can this butterfly defend against the 7 witches of the upper world?" "Sigh, I don't know either." The storyteller shook his head. Above the firmaments, the 7 witches of the upper world summoned their weapons one after another. Some of them had white bone staffs and some of them had bone sabers and spears. Although they were of different shapes, every single weapon possessed a powerful aura. The moment those weapons were summoned, the surrounding void could not withstand the pressure and began to collapse. The 7 witches of the upper world had unfriendly expressions as they glared at the blood-colored butterfly not far away. "What are you?" Elder Feng narrowed his eyes and asked coldly. The blood butterfly did not reply and the surrounding space went into a trance. Right in front of everyone, the blood butterfly transformed into a woman. She wore a blood-colored robe and her black hair fell like a waterfall. She had an indifferent expression and was extremely elegant. Looking at that familiar figure, Su Zimo was emotional and his eyes reddened. All the living beings of Tianhuang mainland raised their heads and looked at the blood-robed woman as well. For some reason, although this woman was extremely beautiful, she had a unique aura that was unforgettable after wearing the blood-colored robe. More importantly, the indifference and pride on the blood-robed woman's face made it seem as though she did not take anyone seriously. The moment the blood-robed woman appeared, the emperors of the human race and the experts of the world felt inferior instinctively. "It's her." At the border of the north region, Monkey suddenly said, "Brother Monkey, you know her?" The spirit tiger, Ching Ching, and the other siblings turned and asked curiously. "We've met once." Monkey reminisced. "However, that was many years ago. In Songlang Mountain Range, she suddenly looked for me and imparted to me a cultivation technique." Pausing for a moment, Monkey scratched his head and said in confusion, "Even now, I don't understand why. That woman must be someone that young master can't forget, right?" The little fox tilted her head slightly and pouted her pink lips, murmuring softly. Long Rant's heart skipped a beat and he exclaimed, "So, it's her." Back then, it was Daiyu who descended upon the Dragon Burial Valley and snatched away the Soraka flower. Long Ran only realized who it was when the blood butterfly transformed into the blood-robed woman. "It's that senior." Mo Ing of Divine Phoenix Island was excited when she saw the blood-robed woman. Back then, it was this blood-robed woman who descended upon Divine Phoenix Island and overwhelmed everything domineeringly to retrieve the Divine Phoenix bone. From that day on, Mo Ing idolized her wholeheartedly. The capital of Great Zhou. A woman in a pale yellow dress looked up at the skies with a conflicted, bitter and disappointed expression as she murmured, "So, that's her?" Above the firmaments. Su Zimo looked at the back of the blood-robed woman with an emotional expression. Finally, he could not help but call out softly, "And Miss Dai, is that you?" "Of course it's me." The blood-robed woman turned around and smiled at Su Zimo, who was not far away. Su Zimo was stunned. That voice had sounded in his ears countless times. That face had haunted him for a long time. Su Zimo had not expected that he would be reunited with Daiyu under such circumstances. In his heart, Su Zimo had countless things he wanted to tell Daiyu. He wanted to tell Daiyu everything that happened to him up till this point. However, the thousands of words he wanted to say became incoherent and stuttered. "Miss Dai, why? I never thought that you would." Su Zimo's expression was uneasy. At that moment, he no longer had the dominance and grace of the martial emperor and looked like a shy youth. Daiyu did not say anything and merely smiled at Su Zimo. "Miss Dai, thank you for the gift you left for me. The first two gifts have helped me a lot. However, I don't know if the third gift." Su Zimo's mind was in a mess and he did not know where to start. Right then Daiyu spoke and interrupted Su Zimo. "The third gift is none other than me." Chapter 1744, Complete Annihilation. Chapter 1744, Complete Annihilation. When he heard that, Su Zimo felt his mind buzz and his heart thumped wildly, as though it was about to jump out of his mouth. He had never heard such touching words. Furthermore, it came from Daiyu. However, was Daiyu referring to her arrival to assist him, or was there any other meaning behind it? Su Zimo seemed to have thought of something as his face turned red and he was even more flustered. "What are you thinking about?" Daiyu looked at Su Zimo with a fake smile as if she could read his mind. Su Zimo blushed even more. "And nothing," he replied hurriedly with an uneasy expression. For some reason, Su Zimo felt that Daiyu seemed to be smiling more as well upon their reunion this time round. Back when Daiyu imparted the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness to him in Pingyang Town, she had a cold expression and barely smiled. Taking a deep breath of air, Su Zimo probed, "Miss Dai, what's the meaning of this third gift? Actually, even when I left back then, I did not expect that you would be able to cultivate to this point." Daiyu's expression turned emotional as well. She knew best how difficult it was for a mortal with an ordinary bloodline to rise in the cruel cultivation world without a sect, resources or backing. When she left back then, she left behind the Soraka flower, Divine Phoenix bone and the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness. However, she also knew that the chances of Su Zimo growing were extremely slim. Although Su Zimo had once said that he wanted to look for her, she merely smiled and did not take it seriously. Therefore, now that Daiyu met Su Zimo again and saw that the latter had already cultivated to this stage, she was extremely delighted as well. As such, she naturally smiled more. Daiyu continued, "The mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness. Only when all 12 demon kings are cultivated and the blood butterfly is formed will I be able to sense it and descend upon this phenomenon with my consciousness." A look of realization flashed through Su Zimo's eyes. Prior to this, although the bloodline phenomenons he cultivated could also condense the blood butterfly phenomenon, they were all illusory. However, after the 12 demon kings were cultivated, the blood butterfly that was formed this time round had already materialized. In other words, he could only trigger the true blood butterfly phenomenon after cultivating the 12 demon kings. But the current Yu. Su Zimo looked at Dai Yu and hesitated. After all, there were some things he could not say openly in the face of a great enemy. Dai Yu did not hide anything and nodded without hesitation. What you see now is naturally not my true body. At best, it can only be considered as a clone. In fact, it would be a stretch to call it a clone. Right now, Dai Yu was merely a bloodline phenomenon conjured by Su Zimo. However, Dai Yu's consciousness in it was awakened. At the side, Elder Feng and the other witches of the upper world did not dare to act rashly. When they heard that, the 7 witch race experts exchanged glances and heaved a sigh of relief. For them, they descended with their true bodies. However, the woman before them was merely a bloodline phenomenon and could not even be considered as a clone. Fu. The woman of the witch race from the upper world was jealous of Dai Yu's appearance and aura to begin with. Now that she knew about Dai Yu's background, she could not help but sneer. I was wondering what sort of a big shot this was. So, you're nothing but a bloodline phenomenon. What are you acting cocky for? When she heard that, the smile on Dai Yu's face gradually disappeared. How dare a few black witches be noisy in front of me? Dai Yu turned around and looked at Elder Feng and the others. She said indifferently and attacked without hesitation. Without circulating any dermic arts or divine powers, Dai Yu merely extended her palm calmly. It was sparkling like jade and shone with a white luster as she slapped the woman from the witch race of the upper world. Die. The witch woman and the 2 witches of the upper world beside her attacked at the same time and released 3 lesser divine powers. Heavenlock Curse. Extreme Curse. Zenith Curse. These lesser divine powers were not the same divine powers released by experts of Tianhuang mainland. The lesser divine powers of the experts of the upper world seemed to have transformed and could even suppress Su Zimo's supreme divine powers with ease. The 3 lesser divine powers were released at the same time as though they wanted to destroy the world. Poof, poof, poof. However, the moment the 3 lesser divine powers were released, they were crushed by Dai Yu's palm and turned into nothingness without any ripples. The 3 lesser divine powers could not even defend against Dai Yu, let alone injure her. Dai Yu slapped down mercilessly and the bodies of the 3 witches from the upper world exploded instantly, turning into a blood mist. Before the essence spirits of the 3 upper world witch race experts could escape, they were slapped to death by Dai Yu's palm. Tianhuang mainland was shaken. The emperors of the human race and the living beings of the 10,000 races widened their eyes in disbelief. In their eyes, those invincible and unstoppable experts of the witch race from the upper world were as weak as ants against the palm of the blood-robed woman. She killed 3 of them with a single slap. It's way too strong. Long Ran was secretly speechless and could not help but gulp. This is only a bloodline phenomenon. Just how strong is her true body? Su Zimo was not surprised at all. Demoness. Elder Feng was shocked and said in a deep voice, "You'd better not go overboard. If you force me, I'll spread the news of what happened here to the witch world. If they know that there's a creation green lotus here, the ones that will descend at that time won't be experts of our black witch level. You were the one who called him a little beast earlier on." Dai Yu ignored Elder Feng's threat and shifted her gaze to him. Her eyes shone with a divine light. The void around Elder Feng collapsed instantly. The next moment, Elder Feng's body began to disintegrate as well, turning into blood foam. "I'm going to destroy this mainland and create rivers of blood." Elder Feng's essence spirit let out a final tragic roar. His essence spirit burned and released some unknown secret skill, turning into a streak of light that shot into the clouds and entered the gigantic crack in the firmaments. "You guys are finished." The remaining 3 witches of the upper world had pale expressions as they looked at Dai Yu, Su Zimo and the others and laughed maniacally. "The experts of our witch world will definitely arrive here after receiving the news. At that time, all of you and all the living beings on this mainland will have to die with Elder Feng." The 3 witches of the upper world roared with menacing expressions. "Is that so?" Dai Yu was nonchalant and unmoved. She said indifferently, "You guys can go and die with him first." She slapped down. Poof. The remaining 3 witches of the upper world had already turned into 3 blood mists without corpses and their essence spirits were destroyed. The world was silent. The living beings of the 10,000 races were shocked. The 7 witches of the upper world were extremely strong and arrogant. However, when the blood-robed woman descended, she killed all 7 witches of the upper world with ease, sparing no one. Chapter 1745, Take Revenge for You? Chapter 1745, Take Revenge for You. Dai Yu killed 7 experts of the witch race from the upper world in succession. The 4 emperors of the witch race standing beside her were so scared that their faces turned pale and they shivered. Senior II. An emperor of the witch race had a terrified expression and his voice trembled, as though he wanted to explain something. Dai Yu did not even look at them. With her back facing the 4 of them, she waved her red sleeves gently. The void collapsed and the world trembled. Boom. An extremely terrifying power struck the 4 emperors of the witch race and their bodies exploded on the spot, turning into blood mists. Their essence spirits were destroyed on the spot as well. Although it had been many years since they last met, Dai Yu was still as decisive and arrogant as before. The 4 emperors of the witch race were killed before they could even beg for mercy. It was useless even if an emperor begged for mercy. Dai Yu could not be bothered to listen. With a wave of her sleeves, 4 emperors of the witch race died as though she was wiping away 4 specks of dust. Dai Yu raised her head slightly and looked at the glowing crack in the firmaments. She murmured, "No wonder those black witches could arrive here safely." Su Zimo explained, 1,000 years ago, the human race met with a great calamity and someone used a secret skill to summon Senior Human Emperor who had ascended from Tianhuang mainland. When Senior Human Emperor received the news, he destroyed the world of Tianhuang mainland and descended forcefully despite his serious injuries to help the human race tide through that calamity. Before Senior Human Emperor left, he told me that because of his descent, the world of Tianhuang mainland is imperfect and its laws are incomplete. There might be other changes in the future. Oh. Dai Yu sounded slightly surprised. However, her expression was calm. The human emperor is quite capable to be able to break through this world and withstand the laws of the lower world without dying. Su Zimo was secretly speechless. Senior Human Emperor was extremely domineering and suppressed the 10,000 races. He was invincible in the lower world and had ascended to the upper world for countless years. However, Dai Yu merely mentioned that he was quite capable. Su Zimo smiled. At that time, I even asked Senior Human Emperor about you as well as the Great Wilderness. What did you find out? Dai Yu's eyes shifted and ripples appeared like water as she asked with a smile. Su Zimo shook his head. Nothing much. I merely found out that there is a trichiliocosm and the Great Wilderness is merely a part of it. At the end of the day, because Senior Human Emperor was not someone from the Great Wilderness, he merely mentioned some things about it but he has never heard of you. Given his cultivation and methods, he's heard of the Great Wilderness but not me. Dai Yu raised her eyebrows slightly. How did you ask him at that time? Su Zimo was slightly stunned. I merely asked Senior Human Emperor if he had heard of Dai Yu. What? Did I do something wrong? Dai Yu, Dai Yu? Dai Yu seemed to have thought of something. She looked a little sad as she said softly, there are less than 5 people in the upper world who know the name Dai Yu. Ah. A look of realization flashed through Su Zimo's eyes. Dai Yu must have some sort of a Dao title in the upper world and the Great Wilderness. However, he asked the Human Emperor about Dai Yu directly. It was only natural that he had not heard of her before. It was the same way in Tianhuang mainland. Although everyone knew of Desolate Marshal, not many people knew that his name was Su Zimo. Only those closest to him knew about this. There were less than 5 people who knew the name Dai Yu. He was one of them. At that thought, Su Zimo suddenly felt a sense of warmth and pride. Dai Yu said, if you have the chance to see him again, you can ask him again about the blood butterfly of the Great Wilderness. Su Zimo smiled. You'll have to wait for me to ascend to the upper world. Your current cultivation is enough if you want to ascend to the upper world? Dai Yu looked at Su Zimo and nodded slightly with a hint of admiration. It is beyond my expectations that you can cultivate to this stage. It's all thanks to the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness, the Siraka flower and divine phoenix bone. Su Zimo said, if you hadn't arranged them for me, I would have died a long time ago, Miss Dai. Dai Yu said, although I left you 3 gifts in the past, how far you can go depends on your own efforts and destiny. In other words, if you hadn't been able to condense the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness in the end, you would not have seen me and I would not have bothered about you as well. That sentence was perfectly fitting of Dai Yu's style. It sounded cold and heartless. Dai Yu continued, something unexpected happened to you. The divine phoenix bone was left for you, but you fused it with the dragon bloodline and became a dragon phoenix. When he heard Dai Yu's words, Su Zimo seemed to have returned to the past where Dai Yu brought him to cultivate in that mansion in Pingyang town. He felt a sense of pride and could not help but laugh. Miss Dai, that's not all I've accomplished. There's also that green lotus clone, right? I've already seen it. Dai Yu looked in the direction of the Kunlun ruins with a calm expression. Although the green lotus true body did not reveal any bloodline aura over there, it could not hide from Dai Yu's senses. That's not all. Su Zimo's eyes were clear and shone brightly. Oh. Dai Yu pondered for a while and shook her head. More than that, I know nothing. I can only wait for you to tell me. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. To think that despite her strength, Dai Yu could not sense the existence of the martial Dao Prime body. The martial Dao Prime body was indeed a variable. Su Zimo opened his mouth and wanted to mention the martial Dao Prime body. However, on second thought he did not say it. It was not because he wanted to hide anything from Dai Yu. It was because even now he could not find the martial Dao Prime body. Furthermore, in the depths of his heart, he was secretly looking forward to the day when the martial Dao Prime body could meet Dai Yu personally. To be precise, the martial Dao Prime body was Su Zimo. The current Dragon Phoenix true body and Green Lotus true body were not the true him. The current Dai Yu was not the real Dai Yu either. The moment the martial Dao Prime body met Dai Yu would be the true reunion between the two of them. When Dai Yu saw that Su Zimo wanted to speak but stopped, she did not ask further. She merely smiled and ignored the gazes of the living beings of the 10,000 races. She pulled Su Zimo's wrist naturally. Let's go. Right in front of everyone, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat when Dai Yu grabbed his wrist. He blushed and asked instinctively, where to? Dai Yu's gaze landed on the ancestral ground of the witch race. With a cold expression she said, these witches summoned their clansmen from the upper world to bully you. If I had not descended, you would have died. I can't let this matter go so easily. I've got to help you take revenge. Most of Su Zimo's attention was focused on Dai Yu's palm. He felt that the palm was indescribably soft and delicate. In fact, he even had an urge to take the initiative and hold Dai Yu's hand instead. Su Zimo smiled. Actually, speaking of which, it was an emperor of our human race who descended from the upper world and bullied them first. Oh. Dai Yu's expression was normal as she said indifferently, you can bully others but no one can bully you. Chapter 1746, Ascension. Chapter 1746, Ascension. If it was anyone else, that statement would naturally be unreasonable. However, no one dared to question it when Dai Yu said it. Furthermore, it seemed logical and justified. In the blink of an eye, Dai Yu had already brought Su Zimo to the ancestral ground of the witch race. At that moment, more than 100,000 witches were gathered in the valley above the witch race's ancestral ground, looking up at Dai Yu and Su Zimo in the firmaments. Some of the witches were so scared that they knelt on the ground and begged. Some of the witches stood with their heads raised fearlessly and shouted, Demoness, don't be arrogant. The experts of the witch race in the upper world have already received the news. Before long they will descend and kill you. Demoness, I advise you to leave quickly. Dai Yu's expression was calm and there were no emotions in her eyes when she heard the shouts and curses below. Su Zimo glanced sideways. He could tell that Dai Yu truly did not care. Who would care if there were ants waving their arms beneath their feet in an arrogant manner? Dai Yu did not move at all. She merely extended her palm slowly and pushed down. It was a slow motion. However, when the jade-white palm descended, the skies suddenly darkened. Some of the witches who were cursing in the valley suddenly shut their mouths and widened their eyes, feeling a huge shadow envelop them. The eyes of many witches were filled with endless despair. Many witches tried their best to escape from the valley. However, no matter how they fled, they could not escape from the gigantic shadow. It was as though the skies had collapsed. There was nowhere to hide. No living being could survive from that shadow. The witches who were cursing earlier on had already broken down and knelt on the ground, crying and begging for mercy. Some of the patriarchs of the witch race summoned their dermic treasures and released divine powers towards the shadow in the skies. However, those dermic treasures and divine powers did not cause any ripples when they entered the shadow. Dermic treasures and divine powers were destroyed by a single touch from Dai Yu's palm. Dai Yu's palm descended slowly. There was clearly an endless void between them and the valley beneath their feet. However, it was as though the apocalypse had arrived in the valley. Cries, roars, howls, pleads for mercy and tragic shrieks intertwined. Daiyu's palm pressed down. Boom. A deafening bang that shook the heavens and earth sounded. The entire Tianhuang mainland seemed to have trembled. All the sounds earlier on vanished instantly. After that loud bang, Tianhuang mainland fell into a long period of silence. Everything went silent. The emperors of the human race and the experts of the world arrived above the firmaments and looked down at the valley of the middle continent. To be precise, the valley had already vanished. In its place was a gigantic palm print with 5 fingers that caved in deeply in an extremely shocking manner. Blood filled the palm and life was extinguished. More than 100,000 witches died without exception. Su Zimo was not surprised by this. Back then he was almost killed by cultivators of Joyful Clan. Before Daiyu left, she killed the entire Joyful Clan. That was Daiyu's method. The witch race did not have any goodwill when they summoned the experts of the upper world. If Daiyu had not descended, there would have been even more extinct races in Tianhuang mainland if the experts of the witch race of the upper world were allowed to massacre wantonly. Those witches deserved to end up in such a state. While Su Zimo was mentally prepared, everyone else was scared out of their wits. Even the emperors of the human race, Long Ran and the others, were pale. She's way too domineering. Long Ran gulped and murmured, just because she wanted revenge for Zimo, she casually destroyed the witch race. What would happen if this expert was enraged? Although Long Ran had seen Daiyu before, he did not expect her to be able to release such a terrifying power. An emperor of the Kuan race at the side took a deep breath and composed himself. Thankfully, she's not our enemy. The storyteller's eyes were still filled with worry as he said softly, if it's as Elder Feng said and there are still experts from the upper world descending, it won't be easy for this senior to defend alone. After all, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Furthermore, the upper world is vast and there's always someone better out there. At the mention of that, the other emperors frowned slightly as well. To be precise, the crisis of Tianhuang mainland had not passed completely. Above the firmaments. After killing the witch race, Daiyu retracted her palm with a calm expression, as if she had casually done something extremely ordinary. She glanced sideways. Seeing that Su Zimo wanted to speak but stopped, she said, if you have any doubts, ask away. Miss Dai, can I meet you again after I ascend to the upper world? Not necessarily. Daiyu said, in the trichiliocosm of the upper world, every world is countless times larger than Tianhuang mainland. Even in the great wilderness, there are many unknown places that I have not explored given my cultivation, let alone the trichiliocosm. Under normal circumstances, there are a few possibilities for your dragon phoenix body to ascend. The possibility of ascending to the dragon world, the parasol tree world and the great wilderness is the greatest. Of course, there's also an extremely small chance of ascending to another world. If you manage to ascend to the great wilderness, there's a high chance that you can get to meet me. Su Zimo nodded, seemingly enlightened. The dragon phoenix true body possessed the bloodline of the dragon race. Therefore, there was a chance he could ascend to the dragon world. The parasol tree world that Daiyu mentioned should be the world of the divine phoenixes. In the ancient books, there were some legends that said that the divine phoenixes only resided in parasol trees. The dragon phoenix possessed the bloodline of the divine phoenix as well and could ascend to the parasol tree world. The dragon phoenix could also be considered as a type of demon. Therefore, it was possible for him to ascend to the great wilderness. Daiyu's gaze shifted to the green lotus true body in the Kunlun ruins. As for your green lotus body, there's a chance that you can ascend to the heavenly world. Heavenly world. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Daiyu nodded. You're right. There is a high chance that the humans in the billion minor kiliocosms will ascend to the heavenly world. The human emperor you mentioned earlier on should be someone from the heavenly world. Su Zimo nodded. Daiyu said, of course there is only one creation green lotus in the entire world. It's entirely possible for you to ascend to any world. After Daiyu's explanation, Su Zimo understood more about the upper world. The upper world included the trichiliocosm, the heavenly world, great wilderness, dragon world, parasol tree world, witch world and god world were all a part of the trichiliocosm. Daiyu's expression turned unusually serious. You have to remember that the upper world is not as beautiful as what ordinary people imagine it to be. On the contrary, the cruelty of the upper world is 1,000 times more than the minor kiliocosms. Even with my cultivation, I can only dominate less than 50% of the upper world. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.